with the desire to ensure justice and equity for everybody. And as ministers in the hallowed temple of justice, grant that the cause of truth, equality, justice, and fight for human rights continually flourish in our hands. Amen. Please, let's be seated.
Please, may we stand for national anthem? We take paragraphs 1 to 3. 1 and 3. Wing the on their native land, all riders on native, in brotherhood we stand. Nigeria try all times to say, God for creation, and take us from the earth. Help us to build a nation where no one is oppressed. Nigeria may be blessed. Some of us are still learning the words of the national anthem. So bear with us. Many of us are still learning the wordings. All right. We now invite the Honorable Representative for Chief Justice of Lagos State, Kazim Alabo. He is ably represented by Mrs. O.O. Fowoye Erusieti, DCR, Special Duties High Court, IKEJA. Mrs. O.O. Fowoye Erusieti. Sorry. DCR Special Duties. Also, we recognize the presence of Chief Magistrate Jumoke Olateru Olagbegi Adelabu. And then the Commissioner of Police, Lagos State, ably represented by ACP Paul Azoka Okafor.
You're welcome, sir.
The Area Commander of Area F, IKEJA, is a special guest of honor for today. Please give him a round of applause. We also have Director, Legal Logistics LASMA, Mr. Jibril Oshodi.
Okay, you're welcome.
He's on his way.
Okay, he's on his way. Thank you very much.
And we also have Engineer Amos, Second in Command, PWD Unit. We also recognize the presence of Engineer Ogunriola Banji, Sub-Dean, Students Affairs, Yaba Tech,
You're welcome, sir.
and Mrs. Esther Aloga, Chief Intelligence Officer, NAPTIP.
You're welcome, ma'am. So once again, we're all welcome. We all know the purpose for our gathering today. Today marks the
We also have Chairperson of FIDA Nigeria Badagry, Lady Edith Udiji. And Mrs. Abiodu Adeniyi, wife of our former late chairman, Mr. Adeshino Ogolano.
You're welcome, ma'am. Okay. As I was saying before, we're welcome once again, and we apologize for the late start, even though we tried our best not to do the African time thing. Okay, so today marks the commemoration of the International Human Rights Day 2024.
76th anniversary of International Human Rights Day, to be precise.
And then it is said that the state of the human right, or the status of the human rights of a nation, can be qualified or quantified by the way it treats its vulnerable ones. Hence the topic we're considering for today.
We are not in a position to make appraisal of the human rights status of Nigeria. But we know that the MBA IKEJA has graciously put this program together with a theme, an appraisal of the arrest and execution of minors by law enforcement agencies. The agencies are here, and an appraisal maybe will assist us in elevating us.
We also like to recognize the presence of Mrs. Adako Mbama Esquire, who is also one of our keynote speakers. You're welcome, ma'am. It's a privilege to have you here. And every other, okay. We also have architect Kuti Ezebiro, is also one of the panelists for today. You're welcome, sir.
And we have our chief keynote speaker, Chief Magistrate Jumoke Olateru Olagbegi. She's our keynote speaker for today. Please give her a round of applause.
Another panelist is Mr. Babajide Kolade Otitoju. I don't know if he's in the room. Not yet. Okay, thank you. Another panelist is Mr. Jiti Ogunye. We would like to recognize his presence too. Well, he's not yet here.
We also have Professor Dada. She came in here very early and is seated already. Please give her a round of applause.
You're welcome. Also in our midst is the esteemed presence of Barrister Inebehe F. Young. So at this junction, we'll be welcoming for a welcome address the chairman of the Human Rights Committee, who has put together this occasion. She has one or two words to share with us. You're welcome. the newly, the new Vice President, Vice Chairman of MVA IKEJA branch. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is my welcome address delivered by the Chairman, Human Rights Committee of the Nigeria Bar Association, IKEJA. My name is Chinenye Ude. I want to welcome, first of all, the Honorable Chief Judge of Lagos State, ably represented by OOA Fowowi Erusieta. I hope I got that right. She is representing the Chief Judge of Lagos State, Kazim Alogba. I also want to welcome, especially, the keynote speaker, the Chief Magistrate, Jumoke Olateru Olagbegi Adelabu. Ma, you're welcome. I want to welcome the Commissioner of Police, Ishola Olariwaju, ably represented by ACP Paul Okafor. Sir, you're welcome. I want to also welcome the other panelists. I want to welcome the erudite Professor Foluke Dada, Dean of Law Faculty, Caleb University. You're welcome, Prof. I also welcome Mr. Architect Kuti Ezebiro. He was the first person to get into this hall today. Sir, you're welcome, and I appreciate you for your punctuality and dedication. Thank you so much. I welcome every other person here present. I also want to use this opportunity to welcome my own chairman, the chairman of the most vibrant branch of the MBA, Mr. Adeni Kodri. He's looking very chairmanly. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take the opportunity of this program organized by the Nigeria Bar Association IKEJA to celebrate International Human Rights Day, a day set aside to commemorate some of the significant milestones in human rights development across the globe. It is indeed a day when issues that tend to short-circuit and conscript man's ordinarily inalienable rights are highlighted for proactive responses through globalized actions. It is on record that following the establishment of the Human Rights Commission of the United Nations, activists and men of conscience, lawyers and non-lawyers alike, have consistently broadened the scope of the discourse around various aspects of human rights and have progressively found better footing, a stronger and better pedestal to fight for the preservation of the rule of law, which is the fulcrum upon which human rights principles are sustained. We are therefore gathered here together as lawyers, men and women of conscience, and social engineers to attempt to interrogate with a view to forming a formidable legal response to the intriguing and yet highly debilitating recent developments in human rights infractions, particularly in Nigeria. This brings to mind just recently what appears to be an indiscriminate arrest, detention, prosecution, and incarceration of minors by the present government. Indiscriminate in the sense that the minors were alleged to have committed offenses hundreds of miles away from Kano State and outside its jurisdictions to the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where they were detained in subhuman conditions, malnourished and unkept for weeks and months. Thanks to the hue and cry, the odium and public outcry and resentment which greeted that grim and unacceptable criminal charges brought against those minors during the end governance protest. Sadly, there are still reported instances of flagrant breach of minors who are beneath the age of criminal responsibility being held in custody across Nigeria. Mention must also be made that beyond minors, other citizens are also exposed to violation of their human rights by security agents in the country. Just a few days ago, a law firm in Nigeria was invaded by policemen and lawyers. Lawyers and staff were harassed, where electronic devices were confiscated in the course of what appeared to be a brazen arrest or capture of Mr. Dele Farotimi on allegation of libel. This is despite the fact of the pronouncement of the highest court in Nigeria that defamation is no longer a criminal offense in Lagos State. Today, we have selected this scintillating array of very brilliant legal minds, analysts, and faculties who will do justice to the topic by x-raying and appraising the negative, unconstitutional trend of arrest, detention, and prosecution of minors by law enforcement agencies. I cannot possibly conclude this statement without acknowledging the sustained efforts and the uncommon dexterity and commitment of the members of the Human Rights Committee of our branch. Chief amongst whom is Mrs. Tracy Amadi-Gwedike, my predecessor in office, for her dogged determination, guidance, and insights that came to bear in curating this program. I thank our committee members for working assiduously to organize and ensure the success of the program, and also for distilling this exhilarating topic for conciliation. May posterity reward you all in Jesus' name. Indeed, the appropriateness of this topic cannot be overemphasized, nor could another have been better or more suspicious for a time like this. I invite you to sit tight and enjoy the deep and incisive exposition of the issues around the topic. And as we recess from here, may God Almighty grant us journey messages to our different destinations. Thank you for listening. You're welcome.
Thank you so much for that address. We also welcome Engineer Amos, Head of Training, VIS, representing the Director of VIS, Engineer A.G. Fashola. You're welcome. Meanwhile, our chairman is still on his way. I want to now call the speakers to the high table. Okay. And I invite the chairman to please give her opening remark. Our brand new chairman, very brand new chairman. He has a lot of energy in him. He's bringing a lot of vibes to this place.
Thank you, madam. Standing on the established protocol, distinguished and esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Adenu Bodri, and this is my speech for this occasion. Today, as we gather to commemorate the Human Rights Day, a day that serves as a poignant reminder of the fundamental rights and freedoms that every individual, particularly minor, is entitled to. On this day, December 10, in 1948, the United Nations General Assembly adopted Universal Declaration of Human Rights to recognize all human beings as being born free and equal in dignity and rights, regardless of nationality, place of residence, sex, ethnic group, color, religion, language, or any other status. The UDHR is a powerful statement of the inherent dignity and worth of every human being, without distinction of any kind. As we celebrate the Human Rights Day, we are reminded of the progress that has been made in promoting human rights around the world. However, we are also reminded of the many challenges that remain. Today, we remember the countless individuals who have suffered and continue to suffer human rights abuses. Even though the minors' rights are guaranteed under the Child Rights Act when interacting with the police, including the right to fair treatment, the right to be treated with dignity and respect, and the right to be held separately from adults. The reverse appears to be the case if recent reports is anything to go by, particularly the Kano minors that the chairman of the Human Rights Committee just alluded to. Also, I cannot, on an auspicious occasion like this, fail to condemn the recent parade of a legal practitioner about 2 days ago, or maybe yesterday, Mr. Farotimi, a member of the noble profession in handcuffs on allegations of mere defamation or cyber stalking. As has been said, handcuffing a lawyer who is here to be debarred and who still has his name enrolled in the rolls of legal practitioner and who has not been shown to have exhibited any violent conduct is not only an abuse of the criminal process, it is intolerably disgraceful. It was papers, I cannot but believe that that action was put in place to humiliate him and to violate his dignity to as a human being. It was merely a case of libel, 1 year, 2 years, and then you bring a legal. So this sends a wrong signal to all of us. And so on an occasion like this, I think it's a good opportunity to delve into that kind of issue. However, we must recognize the bravery and resilience of human rights defenders, one of who just walked in now, Mr. Inibehen. They risk their lives and livelihood to promote justice, equality, and human dignity. Today is a day to celebrate those. Also, the keynote, one of the panelists, Mr. What's his name? GT Ogunye. As we move forward, it is essential that we recount ourselves to the principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We must continue to promote and protect human rights, particularly in the criminal justice system of the so-called police invite, which normally boils down to issue of bail, associated cost of bail, which is probably extortionist, arraignment, the process of arraignment, and prosecution. I don't want to go into the details, I'm not the keynote speaker, but I have serious issues with the way and manner by which the police came from Ekiti State. I think that process will have been better handled, irrespective of the fact that, there was a meritorious allegation of defamation of character. That process will have been better handled. In conclusion, as we celebrate the Human Rights Day, let us remember the power of human rights to transform lives and societies. Let us commit ourselves to the principles of justice, equality, and human dignity. Let us all work together to build a nation where all human beings can live with dignity and respect. I thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much for that powerful address. Brand new chairman. I'm glad that all those who, our law enforcement agents, are listening. We want to live in a society where everyone will be free as right to live in peace and cohabit with others. Thank you so much for that address. And now, invite the speakers, those who would enlighten us today on human rights. I first invite the representative of the Honorable Chief Justice of Lagos State, Mrs. OOA Fowoye Erusiete, DCR Special Duties. I'm still learning how to pronounce this name. So sorry about that. Next to her is Chief Magistrate, Mrs. Jumoke Olateru Olagbegi Adelabo. She's the keynote speaker. Please come to the table. Sit on the center. You sit here. No, please, sorry. Yeah. All right, that's no problem. We also have Mr. Kuti Ezebiro to the high table, please. Foluke Dada, please join us at the high table. And my immediate past feeder chairperson of Badagry branch, Amiebu Ada Bama, please join us here. When the young man was coming in, two ladies beckoned her, and I was asking, why are you guarding her like a hawk? Who is he? So you get to know him shortly. He's Mr. Inibe Efyong. Please come to the high table. I hear you make anywhere you go hot. I want to see how hot this place is going to be today. All right. Our chairman is still on his way, and this program we have to start. As soon as he comes in, we will let him join us at studio. And I'll hand over the microphone to the chief speaker for today.
All right, good morning, everyone. May I please be permitted to adopt existing protocol? So all protocol duly observed. I bring greetings from the Honorable Chief Judge of Lagos State. I paused because I just realized you were representing him, and whether I should say, my Lord, the Honorable Chief Judge. Honorable Justice K.O. Alugba, who has graciously approved that I deliver this paper, and I thank His Lordship for His Lordship's assistance at all times. First of all, I must say here that preparing for this paper has been a learning experience for me. And I thank the organizers, the Human Rights Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association, IKEJA branch, for the opportunity as well as the privilege. Thank you very much. I'm going to quote from scripture. When good people run things, everyone is glad. But when the ruler is bad, everyone groans. That's Proverbs 29 verse 2. I deliberately use the above quote as a guide that will lead us to various dimensions of attitudinal problems that are interfering with successful implementations of our laws. Effective appraisal of the law in general terms has to do with consistent implementation of the law to develop the society rather than subjecting the citizens to unfair and ridiculous treatment for what they do wrong. Furthermore, in the society, such laws must have been in operation for a considerable period of time for the purpose of gestation. Now, it is sheer mockery of our judicial system if the people charged with the responsibility of enforcing the law cannot be held responsible for violation of the law. In Nigeria, we now have the Child Rights Act domesticated in many states, but there are still many states who are yet to adopt it to ensure that minors are protected nationwide. Now, the implementation of the Child's Rights Law in Nigeria has been a subject of considerable debate, owing to the gap between legislation and enforcement. Now, while our nation, Nigeria, has made strides in aligning its legal framework with international standards, such as the Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC, and the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, ACRWC, significant challenges remain in ensuring effective implementation. I remember a video clip that I watched a couple of years ago where an army lieutenant in the US was invited to speak at a church service. While he was speaking, he inadvertently called a nation a terrorist nation because of what happened at that time. Now, there was serious complaint by the citizens of the said country and even from some politicians in the US that the officer should resign. The main reason why they were asking him to resign was that he made the statement while in military uniform. Taking a cursory look at the antecedents of some of our law enforcement agents and how many atrocities have been committed in uniform or uniforms in violation of human rights just because he or she has the power to do it. Food for thought. Apart from the societal awareness of the rule of law, I mean in the US, you have to learn to take responsibility for your actions. Here we anticipate both the societal awareness as well as the ability and requirement to effectively take responsibility as at when necessary. Generally speaking, one of the most significant purposes of the law is to create an enabling environment where our individual character will not interfere with our relational positions. The law is expected to take care of our differences as we obey it. Now, what are the legal implications of detaining minors? The legal implications of detaining minors are governed by both national and international laws, with an emphasis on the protection of the minor's rights, rehabilitation, and the conditions under which they are detained. Now, as the chairman of the Steering Committee on Diversion Community Rehabilitation Program here in Lagos State, I can state categorically that we have a diversion community in Lagos State where children in conflict with the law are rehabilitated. The major purpose of an appraisal is to elucidate the effectiveness of our system and the areas that need further adjustment. Now, even though the topic has directly and indirectly opened up the boundaries of our intellectual discourse, however, we are going to have a helicopter view of the despicable arrest and detention of minors, especially during the End Bad Governance protest. Nevertheless, we will explore a broader perspective of our level of negligence in the application of the rule of law. Now, during the End Bad Governance protest, according to news publication, an individual came out on social media to misinform members of the public about the ages of the minors that were arrested without any repercussion. We are too big a nation for that to happen. In fact, if not that the presiding judge insisted that all the arrested youths should be brought inside the court, most of the minors arrested could have been left outside the court to cover up the despicable arrest and detention. Detaining minors also includes subjecting them to any unfavorable condition. There were parents who came out to say their children were arrested on the street, but nobody was ready to listen to them. How are their voices going to be heard? The despicable arrest and detention typically refers to arrest and detention that are morally reprehensible, unethical, or highly contemptible. It implies that the actions leading to the arrest and the subsequent detention were done in a particularly cruel, unjust, or dishonorable manner. This is a serious affront on our judicial ethics, tantamount to abuse of power, violation of legal or human rights, or a situation where the treatment of the individual is seen as deserving strong disapproval. Now, this is not an occasion whereby we want to undermine the great work that some of our law enforcement agents are doing to secure the country or restore sanity in the system. But we want to ensure that a more professional approach should be deployed in the arrest and prosecution of our citizens in the near future. Unless we implement the law, there is no way we can evaluate its effectiveness. I'm talking about the Child's Right Law. Many people are oblivious of the 2015 law. A lot of people still cite the old one. We have a Child's Right Law 2015. Next year will be 2025. I think we get my message. Many people are still oblivious. They don't even know about its existence, or they're not sure about the contents, Anyway, awareness helps implementation of the law. I remember sometimes ago in the UK, a couple, a medical doctor and her husband, brought a woman from Nigeria to live with them and ran into trouble. If they could go through all that with an adult complainant, Imagine what the situation would have been if it was a minor. And we have some of those cases. Let me create a hypothetical story, for instance. In the UK, let's assume a young girl who lives with a couple, she's their house help. That happens here all the time. If a neighbor observes that she had not been seeing the young girl going to school, he or she will call the police immediately. The neighbor knows that every morning other children go to school, but this girl does not go. One day she sees her and says, then 2 weeks later she sees her. She will call the police that there is a girl in the house next door. She doesn't go to school. The people the girl is living with will be investigated and charged to court, while the girl will be rescued and enrolled in a school. Apart from the fact that the community has a good understanding of the law, that's the point I'm trying to make, the police usually also respond appropriately to protect the rights of even the minors. So my first question is this: if it is in this country, are we going to get the same response from our law enforcement agents as in this hypothetical story? I know this may shock some of you. Nevertheless, honestly, in the family court, we have discovered that many times we do get the appropriate response from our law enforcement agents when it has to do with the child. Many of the cases that actually come to court, the police respond honestly appropriately. Now, I think we should clap for the law enforcement agencies. This might be your only opportunity, so do it quickly. Oh. It's the only part that I saw that they did well. You know what I mean? All right. It is, however, undisputed that many members of the public really need to be sensitized, especially since ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Furthermore, still on this hypothetical story, any agreement with the minor or the minor's family members, as happens in our own community, a cousin's child or a relative's child living with them and is not going to school, any agreement would have been irrelevant, since it is the law that takes preeminence, not your culture or your family tradition. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So it is possible to be sincerely wrong. You cannot give the right reason for doing the wrong thing. Neither can you do the wrong thing to put things right. Another question is, if it is in this country, are we going to get a similar reaction from the neighbor? Yes or no? You and I are neighbors. Think about your own neighborhood and the number of out-of-school children resident there. What have you done for them lately? In the UK or in the US, if a neighbor calls the police will arrest the couple, and the child or minor will not only be rescued, he will be enrolled in a school in furtherance to their own child's right law. I observe that abroad, generally, the neighbors know the law. Therefore, it can be implemented. The citizens can implement it. The police also know the law, so they also can implement it. My humble recommendation is for training and more training of all parties involved in our own system. Not only the members of the law enforcement agencies, it is highly recommended that we create awareness of the child's right law by generally sensitizing members of the public, which includes parents, teachers, and members of each residential community. That will ensure effective awareness and implementation of the relevant laws, especially the child's right law. Because even though it is a great achievement to have the law passed in your state, what matters most is the implementation. Members of the public having a clear understanding of the child's right law will definitely aid implementation of same. Records of the number of child offenders arrested in various states and areas. I'm happy that there are some people who are going to give us some of those statistics here, because unfortunately I've not been able to gather that. They are generally not reliable statistics, the ones I had access to. Furthermore, we have in various districts the numbers of child offenders arrested or charged to a court in that district, but the issue is that they are usually in court mostly for what the minor is said to have done wrong, same being an allegation until proven. Nevertheless, how come they are mostly in court for the allegation of what they are said to have done wrong, and not simply for their rescue and protection, given the number of children we see on the streets, truancy, the allegation of cultism, cult members on the rampage, to mention a few. Now, having said so, I must acknowledge the fact that there has been an increase in the number of defilement cases where the defendants, are both adults and children, but let's ignore that. The world has become a global village. We can no longer be paying lip service to doing things according to international best standard of practice, especially with respect to human rights issues. Now, here are some key aspects. These international standards, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, was adopted by the UN in 1989, and it has set standards for the treatment of minors. It emphasizes that detention should be a last resort and for the shortest time possible. It also mandates that conditions of detention should respect the rights and dignity of children, ensuring access to education, healthcare, and appropriate living conditions. Also, the Beijing Rules, 1985. These guidelines focus on the treatment of juvenile offenders, stating that detention should be used only when necessary for the protection of society or the minor. It also highlights the importance of alternatives to detention, such as community-based interventions. How about national laws? Each country has its own legal framework concerning juvenile detention. In many jurisdictions, minors are afforded greater legal protection than adults, with systems designed to focus on rehabilitation rather than punishment. Now, in the United States, for example, minors are often subject to the juvenile justice system, which is intended to focus on rehabilitation. However, certain circumstances, such as the severity of the offense, may result in minors being tried as adults, which could lead to harsher detention conditions. In Europe, countries like Sweden, Germany, they emphasize alternatives to detention, such as probation, electronic monitoring, or residential care, unless the offense is particularly severe. Lagos State, Nigeria. The Lagos State government has zero tolerance for child abuse in all ramifications. According to Lagos State Safeguarding and Child Protection Policy, the rights, welfare, and safety of the child are the state government's first and paramount consideration. The policy supports all state government staff to respond appropriately to potential child protection concerns, including suspected abuse or neglect. It is our commitment to protect children from abuse and to recognize the important role of staff that have dealings with children. I'm quoting the policy. Now, I want to talk about my own encounter. A couple of weeks ago, while I was going to court, I branched to inflate the tire of the car. Now, I saw the hand of the boy who wanted to attend to me with large blisters and scars. So I asked the man standing by what happened to him. And he was just rambling on. And then I asked, why is the boy not in school? I was not satisfied with his story. So there and then, I put a call through to my assessor and to the social worker that was attached to my court. And I described where I was. It was opposite one hotel, so you can't miss it. Unfortunately, he was not immediately available. And by the time he arrived there a bit later, the boy was no longer there. The point I'm trying to make is that it is not only when these children are in conflict with the law or when they are reported to the police before we should help them. We should protect their rights more. If you cannot see in children and young persons who they need to become in life, what you will be dealing with in their lives is what becomes of them as a result of what you did not do for them. I repeat, if you cannot see in children and young persons who they need to become in life, what you will be dealing with in their lives is what becomes of them as a result of what you did not do for them. So if you cannot assist a child of school age roaming the streets for the purpose of getting him into a school to make his life better, all you will be dealing with later in his life is what becomes of him for lack of education. Therefore, we may indirectly say most of the things we are dealing with in our youths today are the things we neglected over the years. Therefore, from the foregoing, it is undisputed, more than ever before, we need to uphold the rule of law to impact the society at large and help our children and young persons. Falsification of age. I have discovered from sitting in court that he aids the arrest and detention of minors. There has been many instances when the individual charged to court was actually a minor, even though the age didn't so reflect. However, when the court in its discretion inquires from the defendant, who is actually a child offender, he or she then confirms the suspicion of the Honorable Court and declares his age, that he is or she is a minor, either 16 or 17, even 14, while the charge sheet reads 19 or above. Some of the minors charged to court do look older than their age, but some don't. And it is obvious they are minors. But all that is the work of the IPO or the investigator, who should have done that before even approaching the law courts. Many times the court is misguided with respect to the age of the minor, so that the child could be punished for the offense committed, rather than possibly referred to diversion for the purpose of correction and rehabilitation if the facility is available in that location. The question now is this: is it the offense that is more important or the child? Is it the offense that is more important or the child? For the avoidance of doubt, the family court is established to ensure that the best interest of the child is prioritized in all matters concerning a child. Furthermore, according to the state policy, all children in the state must be treated equally with respect and fairness, regardless of age, culture, religious background, disability, creed, ethnicity, as well as their health status. Practical implementation. In a similar vein, as per the laws, there is no way we can test the efficacy of any law until it is put into practical implementation. The continuous practical implementation of the law by acting on the words of the law not only creates awareness in most quarters, it also displays consistency and then effective results will follow. If you don't put all the principles to use, or simply use the law only when convenient or when you have personal interest, it will be a bit challenging to evaluate or appraise due to the inconsistency. For instance, if we only arrest when we have personal interest, that is being selective, being sporadically, acting sporadically. When it is someone we don't like, then we implement the law. But when it is a close ally, the reverse is the case. The international community are watching, and sometimes they begin to ridicule people for inadequacies and inconsistencies whenever it is on display or even uncovered. Anyway, it's just like saying Liverpool or Man U football club maybe they lost a crucial match. Do we have their fans here married to an ex-international? Analyzing how they lost the match is not an indictment on the abilities of the player, but their professional or unprofessional or lack of good tactical approach in that particular game. So the truth is, we're doing a lot, but we can do more. We can do much more. The earlier we begin to do better to enable us to evaluate the position of things, the better. But please, we need to remember, you cannot give the right reason for doing the wrong thing. Neither can you do the wrong thing to put things right. There are common human rights violations during the arrest and detention of minors. Arbitrary arrest. Children are sometimes arrested without sufficient cause, without due process or clear justification, especially in politically unstable regions or during conflicts. How about the inhuman treatment? Detained minors often face physical abuse, torture, neglect, or inhumane conditions, violating protection under the CRC and the Convention Against Torture. Prosecution as adults. Prosecuting minors in adult courts instead of the family court, often for minor offenses or due to political motives, disregards their age and developmental status, and are usually not in the best interest of the child or children involved. How about prolonged detention? Many minors are held for long periods without trial, violating their right to due process and speedy adjudication. Conflict zones. In conflict areas, children are often arrested on suspicion of terrorism or insurgency involvement. For instance, child detainees in Israeli-Palestinian conflict have reported mistreatment during arrest and interrogation. There's also the issue of political exploitation. Minors are sometimes prosecuted to suppress dissent, as seen in cases where children participate in protests. The criminal justice system in some countries, minors are subjected to harsh penalties, including life imprisonment or even the death penalty, violating their rights under international law. The inherent risk in the detention of minors is that the prolonged detention of minors can lead to various psychological and developmental harm. Studies have shown that incarceration can increase the risk of future criminal behavior, trauma, and mental health issues. These are very serious things. So therefore, the legal system is increasingly focused on alternatives to detention. That's what diversion is really primarily about. Furthermore, minors may be at risk of physical abuse or exploitation in adult detention facilities, which underscores the need for specialized juvenile detention centers that meet the unique needs of young offenders. There are human rights concerns at the core of international law and international relations, and they represent these basic values common to all cultures and must be respected by countries worldwide. The detention of minors is subject to human rights law. In many cases, minors have the right to challenge the legality of their detention through legal representation. Detention should not violate their right to family life, education, and social reintegration. Detention conditions must meet certain minimum standards, such as ensuring the safety and well-being of minors, preventing abuse, and providing access to adequate food, health care, and education. Now, with reference to the End Bad Governance protest, you will all agree with me that according to the media reports, some of our law enforcement agents contravened the international best practice standard in the way the minors were said to have been arrested, to have been detained without food or medical care. I must state categorically that the protection the law gives children should not be used to disrupt lives and properties. Neither should children be used as political tools. That is not acceptable. We're at a crossroad in our nation's history, taking cognizance of what our society has become and the lack of adequate measures to safeguard lives and property across the nation, as well as the level of hunger and poverty. There is no better time to discuss these issues and the way out than now. The major goal of this discussion today is to protect the rights of minors, children, as we are precariously exposed to uncertainties in all spheres of life. Any nation where the rule of law is not respected and enforced as a way of life, its citizens will be rendered vulnerable to all kinds of vices. Legal systems typically aim for rehabilitation, not punitive measures, when dealing with minors, children. The concept of restorative justice and diversion have gained prominence in many countries, including Nigeria now, focusing on the minors' rehabilitation and reintegration into society rather than punishment. Detention should ideally be aimed at addressing the underlying causes of criminal behavior, such as neglect, abuse, lack of education, rather than simply serving as a form of punishment. It can be used to separate the minor to counsel them for the purpose of rehabilitation and reintegration into society instead of mere punishment. The legal defense and right of minors. Minors have the right to a fair trial and the right to legal representation in many jurisdictions. Depending on the age of the minor and the crime committed, they may have the right to be tried in a juvenile court or family court, as the case may be, which is more focused on rehabilitation than adult courts. The legal system may also allow minors to challenge their detention or the conditions of their detention through habeas corpus petitions or other legal remedies. The legal implications of detaining minors are complex and multifaceted, involving considerations of children's rights, the need for rehabilitation, the conditions of detention, alternatives to incarceration. International frameworks like the CRC, the Convention of the Rights of the Child, and national laws generally seek to protect minors from overly punitive measures, ensuring that detention is used sparingly and as a last resort. Reform in juvenile justice system. Governments must align national laws with international standards to ensure that minors are treated with dignity. Now, there's a specialized police unit in the Nigerian police. The institution is presently referred to as Juvenile Welfare Center. The agency is responsible for situations where a child, anyone below 18 years of age, is in immediate danger, and for working with child protection units and investigating cases of abuse or neglect where an offense may have occurred. The question now is, does the JWC exist in various police stations and area commands, both statewide and nationwide? If it does, what are the modalities? Where is it available? And how can it be assessed by the average child or social worker? If it doesn't, why did the police in those areas ignore the legal requirement meant to safeguard the arrest and prosecution of minors? What is the way forward? In my humble opinion, the way forward is the implementation of the Child's Right Law, period. The role of police in the implementation of the Child's Right Act, 2003. We have a few challenges. After Nigeria enacted the Child's Right Act into law, the act is intended to protect children's welfare, education, and safety. The act emphasizing that protecting children's rights is the responsibility of both the family and the state, notably law enforcement organizations such as the police. The police are responsible for investigating cases of abuse, neglect, trafficking, exploitation, as well as protecting the safety of children. Now, despite the importance of their position, the police have significant problems in adequately implementing the Child's Right Act. It's a great achievement to have the law, but what matters most is implementing the law that you have. The police are in charge of enforcing the Child's Right Act by preventing child abuse, investigating crimes against children, rescuing vulnerable children, working with other organizations to provide comprehensive support. Their responsibility also includes teaching communities about children's rights and creating a climate in which individuals feel comfortable reporting abuse. Creating a climate in which individuals feel comfortable reporting abuse. Remember the hypothetical story. Anybody feels comfortable in some of those countries to say and get to the police and say what they have to say. We need that here. Ultimately, law enforcement should be the first line of defense in protecting distressed children. The significance of specific training and responsibility in the Nigeria police and law enforcement agencies generally, especially when dealing with minors in sensitive situations, cannot be overemphasized. Enhancing the role of the police in child protection. Now, there is an urgent need for the improvement of police officers' effectiveness in protecting children as part of their cardinal responsibility. They need advanced methodology in child protection, trauma-informed care, dealing with sensitive cases to ensure they respond correctly, appropriately to children's needs. Additionally, appropriate resources and staffing are required for police stations to prioritize child protection cases, especially in poor areas. The role of child protection units within the police department is critical. Stronger accountability and anti-corruption measures should be developed to combat anything that may want to hinder our police from carrying out their duties professionally. Transparency in the handling of child protection matters will also help to re-establish public trust. Community engagement is also quite important. It is critical to build confidence between law enforcement agents and communities. Public education about children's rights and outreach programs can help boost this relationship. The governments must initiate reform in juvenile justice systems to align national laws with international standards to ensure that minors are treated with dignity. I must, however, reiterate that the fact that we are protecting the rights of children doesn't mean that children can get away with anything they do wrong. No, not at all. Protection of rights of minors is not a license to do the wrong thing. There are age-appropriate punishment, discipline, counsel, community service for minors, for child offenders who do not get a custodial sentence. It's probably even more embarrassing for their mates to see them going through that than just to lock them up somewhere. While our nation, Nigeria, has a solid foundation with the Child's Rights Act, the journey forward fully realizing child's rights is far from complete. Addressing systemic challenges and fostering partnerships across sectors will be essential for the effective implementation of child rights laws. This requires a holistic approach that combines legal enforcement, poverty alleviation, and cultural reform. Efforts to combat these abuses require global attention and enforcement of the rights guaranteed to children under international law. It is essential that there be essential reform in our juvenile justice system so that governments align their national laws and with international standards to ensure that minors are treated with dignity. I repeat, minors being treated with dignity. We know how we like to treat adults with dignity, but you don't have to kneel to the child. There are ways we treat them that shows that they have dignity. This is a requirement for the remaining state governments yet to domicile or adopt the Child's Rights Act. Monitoring and advocacy. International organizations such as UNICEF, Human Rights Watch, they monitor abuses and advocate for the protection of minors in detention. According to our former Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, and I'm quoting, he said, "A nation will be measured ultimately by how it treats its most vulnerable citizens. We recognize that we cannot make progress as a people while a significant population of our children, those to whom the future belongs, are left on the margins of society, deprived of the opportunity to discover and fulfill their potential." The former Vice President expressed this view in his special address at the At-Risk Children Program, ARCP. The summit was at the State House Banquet Hall, Abuja, in 2019. Now, as a family court magistrate and as the chairman of the Steering Committee on Diversion Community Rehabilitation Program here in Lagos State, I can say authoritatively that there has been a lot of challenges in the past, but the judiciary has stepped up our operations and procedures in order to ensure that organizations and government agencies charged with the responsibilities of caring for vulnerable children do their jobs professionally according to the best standard of practice. And that is why we are here today, to renew our commitment to strict adherence to the rule of law in the way we carry out our responsibilities towards children and young persons, also known as minors. There are a lot of things that people, especially the biological parents of a child, take for granted. And we need to sensitize members of the public about what is not acceptable, even if you are the biological father or mother of the child. There must be a way to sensitize society at large that parents have to know that it is not enough or sufficient to simply be the biological parent of a child, since it is undisputed that there are circumstances where even biological parents have to come to the family court to obtain an order of the family court before they can execute their wishes and desires on their own children. It is when there's a problem that people, especially parents, realize that their children are wards of the state. Your own child, wards of the state. The same way they discover that the offense is against the state, not just the nominal complainant. So there is no way we can test the efficacy of any law until we put it into practical implementation. Individuals, corporations, government agencies, all of us should develop the law as stipulated in government policies and state law, instead of simply using it as a form of punishment. Furthermore, unless we implement the law, there is no way we can evaluate its effectiveness. The court is the last hope of the common man. It's also the last hope of the child, of the young person or minor. Therefore, the arrest and detention of minors by law enforcement agencies must be in accordance with the law, particularly the child's right law, meaning that everything done must be in the best interest of the child. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mom. That was a very brilliant one. That was a sneak peek into the brilliant mind of um, the Chief Magistrate, our keynote speaker for today. You know, in the secondary school, we used to have this little booklets. They say keynote to government, keynote to this, keynote to that. And then those little books, I wonder how they break down everything inside the textbook. You have it in those pamphlets. She has done a very, very brilliant job in handling the situation from every angle it affects us from. Can we please give her another round of applause? And before I tell you about her, because we're not really able to introduce her properly before she gave a brilliant work, I want to welcome the presence of Star Jitsi Ogunye. He just came in, our chairman for the occasion. You're welcome, sir. And before we welcome our chairman to give his own welcome address, I would like to introduce to us the brilliant mind who just spoke to us. The profile of our honor, Chief Magistrate Adejumoke Olagbegi Adelabu. Mrs. Adejumoke Bolakale Olagbegi Adelabu is the Chief Magistrate Admin in the Lagos State Judiciary. She currently sits at Court 1 Ikorodu in the Lagos Magistracy. Her Honor Chief Magistrate Olagbegi Adelabu is the immediate past chairman of the Magistrates Association of Nigeria, Lagos State branch, and she serves 2 terms in she has served 2 terms in office. Her Honor is the chairman of the Steering Committee on Diversion Community Rehabilitation Program in Lagos State, there are those who are working on ensuring that child offenders are not only rehabilitated, they are assisted to continue their education and also get vocational training. Her Honor Chief Magistrate Adejumoke Olagbegi Adelabu Mrs. is happily married to Adegoke Adelabu, an ex-international soccer player. I think she mentioned that. They are blessed with 2 children, Jesu Timelein Kiki Daokwe Adegoke Adelabu and Jesu Tsunsheyi Adedayo Adegoke Adelabu. Please clap for this awesome personality. So at this junction, I'll be welcoming my co-host, Madam Vera, to read out, to introduce to us the chairman of the occasion before he comes up to give his speech. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. My job here now is very simple. To introduce our chairman for today. Our chairman today is one who is distinguished in many areas. His name is also a household name. But I'm here to read just a abridged version of his CV. Mr. G.T. Ogunye, lawyer and principal counsel, G.T. Ogunye Chambers, Lagos State, Nigeria, attended University of Benin and the Nigerian Law School. He was called to the Nigerian bar in 1992, following which he joined the law firm of Femi Falana Chambers, where he worked for 8 years and served as a deputy general, as a head of chambers in 2000. He established GT Ogunye Chambers, a general practice law firm that he conducted variegated cases in all tiers of the Nigerian judiciary. Ogunye's career in legal practice has been intertwined with human rights, pro-democracy, and legal activism. Following his call to the Nigerian bar, he became very active in the Nigerian human rights and pro-democracy movement, which championed the struggle for the termination of military despotism in Nigeria. In the past 2 decades, Mr. Ogunye has been contributing to the promotion of rule of law and constitutional governance in Nigeria. Mr. Ogunye is a leading public interest lawyer, publicist, law reporter, legal commentator, author, essayist. He has written hundreds of law, human rights, democracy, and development-related articles in the print media and learned journals, and has authored 3 development-related articles and has authored 3 publications. He's married to Comfort, a lawyer. Please, can you give him a resounding sound of applause? Well, he's already seated. Mr. Ogunye is already seated. And please, you can come over here.
Yes, okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Your Honor, distinguished guests and speakers on this side of the divide, our professional colleagues here, the law enforcers of our traffic laws, and law enforcement agents here present, our colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed my pleasure to be invited to share this occasion. I apologize for coming to this event late, and I'm thankful to the organizers of this event for keeping faith with the tradition. This is not the first time I will be encountering His Honor on this occasion. The last one, Your Honor served as chairman, if I can recollect, and just as he's incredibly done today, our presentation is usually very cerebral, apt, and enlightening, very educative, and all the issues are broken down. So I thank Your Honor for again doing that today. We're grateful to always have your presence. Now, I will be very laconic, just say a few words, because the event as it is started before my arrival. Rights and norms, and this just to tell us that I didn't bring any prepared speech. Rights and standards and norms are, as we know now, international conventions and charters, in constitution, in this case our constitution, and in statutes generally. The ones that are fundamental are codified in our constitution. And what that implies is that there are rights that are not considered fundamentals, which are no less rights that are scattered in our statute books, which are very important. The first point to note is that usually rights are not self-enforcing. They may be observed, but in most cases, even those who swore to uphold the law and observe the law may not observe them, unless and until those who have the rights claim them and insist on their rights being respected. So rights generally are not self-enforcing as such. So they have to be demanded, they have to be respected, they have to be enforced. The second point is that it is not the case that rights are only expected to be respected or enforced by government agencies, including law enforcement. Sometimes the ordinary people feel that ordinary people do not breach the rights of other people. That's not the case. People, as it is said, in South Africa when they were fighting for independence, at a point, and deracialization of South Africa, at a point, blacks started fighting blacks. And it was called in that era, blacks on black violence. So there are people on people breaches, people on people violations. So the fixation that is only government agencies, and law enforcement that violate rights is not correct. So we need to understand this so that while we are calling for enforcement and observance of rights, we must know that it cuts across. That's the second point. The third point is that we must understand that even those who are under a duty to govern, who swore to the oath to enforce the rights of the citizens, also do have their rights violated. And we need to understand this. Some years back, when the NSAS protest broke out, what was being emphasized was how law enforcement was violating the rights of the citizens. And that was bad. But in the course of that protest, we also saw how the rights of law enforcement agents were also violated. We saw policemen being clobbered to death and being recorded and being the clip being shared all over the place. We witnessed that. We saw, because we claim we have a right to property, we saw government property being burnt. We saw an iconic building, like the High Court of Lagos State, burnt to the ground. We saw history destroyed in Lagos State. when I saw the video clip of that court being burnt, I couldn't believe it. And I saw people going to the chambers of judges and donning gowns and wigs and carrying books. I couldn't believe it. And this is not a false equivalence now, because we're talking about human lives and all that. So we must shun that idea that it is only ordinary people that have their rights violated. You know, those who are on the government side sometimes also have their rights violated. But because they are regarded as the perpetrators and not the victim, public sympathy is usually withdrawn from such persons on such occasion. The number 4 point, now staying focused on subject, is that the rights of children under the law have always, not always now, in recent history, have been scattered here and there. Before now, even before the advent of the Child Rights Convention and the Child Rights Act and Child Rights Law, in a number of states now, maybe 35 states in the country, by way of state by state domestication, we have Children and Young Persons Act, Children and Young Persons Law, and we also have some laws talking about Bostal and so on and so forth. We have them scattered. But what the Child Rights Convention and the Child Rights Act and then the Child Rights Law in the respective states have done is to codify and then put together in a very robust manner the rights that children should enjoy. What we should note, however, even as we talk about the rights of children and minors under the law, is that these rights, just as I've said earlier, generally for rights, have not been self-enforcing. And obviously, when we're talking about children, they're even less self-enforcing, assuming they are self-enforcing, you know, than the rights elderly people should enjoy and the general people should enjoy, because being minors and being vulnerable, they may not be able to fight for themselves. What we should note is that these rights we are talking about, particularly the rights of children, can only be successfully enjoyed and enforced if we locate them within our socio-economic reality and political reality. And we need to understand this so that we do not have the illusion that the more we trumpet the need to enjoy these rights, particularly rights of children, the more we'll be able to succeed to have these rights enjoyed. And I'll give you 2 examples. We talk about right to education for children. The state has taken certain steps. And a lot of things that have been done, including Almajiri education, you know, chasing and all that. But do you really think that if, for example, we insist on this right being enjoyed as we should, and we take it that the right to procreation, for example, is a personal right, and that we should allow that to continue to be enjoyed in our current circumstances? People who have 10, 20 children, because they have the right to have them, but do not have the means to house them. If you want children to have a right to shelter, for example, should continue to have them. so that if they continue to have them and they cannot house them, the children who end up then straying to the streets and living on the streets will either have to depend on government to provide shelter for them, or they have to go to elsewhere, a Quranic school, under a malam, under whatever, to stay. And then continue to insist that, oh, these rights ought to be observed. How are those rights going to be observed in the final analysis? The case in point, which is of immediate reference, concerning the minors that were arrested during the last protest in northern Nigeria and brought to Abuja to face charges of treason. Where were they arrested? They were arrested from the streets. And when they were released, Mr. Fevano, with whom I have spoken this morning, was intervening and said that, look, he's not just releasing them. Government should rehabilitate them. And that's good, that's ideal. That's fantastic. But what of the feeder process? And we are not supposed to have the right to interfere and intervene in the private lives of individuals. The state is not supposed to do that, to dictate to you and I on how many children we should have. So, if we want to exact responsibility from the state, we want the state to observe these rights, shouldn't we at least expect that the state may indeed have a say, a responsible state, in how that plays out? So, this is just food for thought. And don't forget that even on that occasion, the governor of Borno State expressed his anger that the federal government released them, that they shouldn't have been released. That some of them, were breaking, they were so destructive that for the love of Mola, what is it called? These people packing metal to sell. They were breaking slabs of roads. Yes, to extract metal so that they could sell. And they were destroying roads, concrete, just to extract the metal. And then we say that, yes, the rate of poverty is so high that that's why people are driven to criminality and all that. So we must locate this within our socioeconomic reality. Nigeria remains a class society. When we were younger, we used to romanticize how Muammar Gaddafi was giving houses to people at the age of 18 and all that. But this is Nigeria, and we must strive to make it better. So I thank you all for listening to me. It's a good thing that we talk about these rights, but we must also talk about the socio-economic, political condition and situation that allows the prevalence of breaches of these rights, and which, if not attended to, may ensure that for now and for a very long time, like a vicious cycle, will become every year to talk about how these rights need to be respected without actually covering much mileage. Thanks so very much.
Please let us give it up once again to the chairman of this August occasion. So while the keynote speaker was speaking, I was scribbling, I was nodding my head, I was really digesting a lot, and then I was like, "Who?" So it is a pleasure here now that we have professors, we have we have brilliant mind here, we have doctors to discuss what she has analyzed for us. So before they under the mic and give us a mirror, or they let us into their mind as to what they think as regards this topic, that we are considering today. I would be reading their profile, just an introduction to their person and personality. First, I would be introducing Kuti Ezebiro. Kuti Ezebiro is an architect, builder, artist, writer, a registered member of the Nigeria Institute of Architects, NIA, and the Architects Registration Council of Nigeria, ARCON. He holds a PhD in architecture from the University of Lagos, Nigeria. He combines design practice in the capacities of principal architect and chief executive officer at Space Form Factory Limited with scholarly research in architecture, urbanism, human settlement, and housing. He is founding editor and senior research fellow at Research Across Disciplines for Development (RADD), an active associate of the Goethe Institute and NH Ball Sofund in Lagos, Nigeria. Kuti Ezebiro's research and publications span the fields of housing, design, mediated environmental and social ecology, poverty and cultural conflicts in post-design colonial built environments. From his days at the university till date, Kuti Ezebiro has remained an ideologically clarified political and human rights activist. A stage play Malady of Venus won the Ford Foundation grant through the International Institute of Education, IIE, New York in 1996. The same book is currently listed in the Lagos State book list as a school test in the literature for junior secondary schools. He is a recipient of the Katrina de Masid and Lagos State Black Heritage Festival Award of Excellence in Painting. That is Dr. Architect Kuti Ezebiro, who unfortunately is not on seat now. Yeah. Next, I would be introducing to us Professor Foluke Dada Lawanson. She is a full professor of law and a distinguished professor of human rights and technology with over 3 decades of experience in academia and legal practice. She holds a Doctor of Juridical Science, Health, Law and Policy from the Loyola University, Chicago, USA, and an LLM from the same institution. She backed an LLM from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. She is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Mediators and Conciliators, fellow of the Chartered Institute of Management Consultants, member of the Nigerian Institute of Management, associate of the Business Recovery and Insolvency Practitioners of Nigeria, among others. Currently serving as the Dean, College of Law, Caleb University, Magodo, Lagos. Professor Foluke Dada Lawson has mentored several students and staff and has led many initiatives such as developing a human rights and technology center. She is Director, Gender Institute, Caleb University, Imota, Lagos, among others. Professor Dada Lawson is an author and is highly regarded for her book in arbitration, managing discovery, due diligence searches, and mediation. Her research spans various legal fields, including human rights, law and technology, family law, gender rights, alternative dispute resolution. She has supervised many theses and examined doctoral dissertations, as well as taught a variety of courses, including law of international arbitration, intellectual property, family law, and human rights at different universities. She is active in the Nigerian Bar Association. She is a current alternate chair for the Lagos Bar Journal, a biennial publication of the NBA Lagos Bar, and the past chairman 2012 to 2014, and chair NBA Ado Ekiti branch 2016 to 2018, and the second vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association 2018 to 2020, a former council member of the NBA Women Forum. She is the head of the very active committee 2018 to 2022 and remains an active member of the advocacy committee of the same forum till date. That is an introduction to Professor Foluke Dada Lawson, who would be the first panelist to address us because I think she has to go somewhere.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate everybody here. I want to start by adopting the properly established protocol. I know that my CJ is represented, and I must inform you all that he's actually a co-chair of my college board, and that's a special connection there. And Your Worship, I know you don't really know me, but I can relate to OO. And I remember your picture on his table then when we were in the law school. So it's a pleasure to see you, and I want to appreciate GT Ogunye. Yes, honestly, there's somebody in my college who loves you too much, Dr. Ashaju. He's always talking about GT Ogunye every time. So it's a pleasure to see you today, and all the panelists. I want to appreciate you all, and I want to thank the NBA IKEJA branch for always hosting me here with joy. And the new chair, I congratulate you. I congratulate the new ESCO. And I pray that God will give you a very successful tenure. Okay, so to all the attendees of today's meeting, the members of the different law enforcement groups, I welcome you, my learned colleagues. And there's somebody here, Madam Joy, a colleague at the National MBA. I welcome you, and the chair of all the feeder branches. Everybody, you're welcome. But I'm in a bit of a hurry because I'm supposed to be delivering a keynote address somewhere else, but IKEJA Bar is so special to me. I decided to come here first. And having listened to that wonderful keynote speech, which covered the ground. It just, what we lawyers call covering the fields. I think she did a very passionate job at really discussing the issues. So thank you very much. And I've listened to the chairman. Our chairman, sir, you almost spoke my mind. Thank God I didn't speak last. I probably would not have anything to say. But it's a joy that we have erudite scholars, learned minds, people who are real advocates in the field talking about the issue at hand. But today, as dean of a college, I'm going to talk from that perspective too. As a dean of a college of law, I have been dean for people who are really young. It amazes me when we consider the age of some of our students. We have students as young as 14, sometimes 15, and these are children in my mind. And when you try to talk to them, you're like almost the mother chicken. You're the sister. You're almost everything to them. So it takes you out of that thing about being a teacher, being a manager, an admin person, and all of that. But today being the International Human Rights Day, which is a day that is celebrated yearly, I was discussing with one of the panelists, Kuti, and we mentioned something about what it is, what it means to us to be Nigerian. That's where we started from. And that's one of the reasons why I like to be a member of this kind of panel. You get the opportunity to relate with people from across the board from, he's an architect. And I was curious to find out why he would be here. What's the connection between being an architect and being an advocate for human rights and all of that? But the good thing about it is that people do have the passion to do what they are doing, and they do it well. So we're talking about what is this thing about being a Nigerian, because I think that's where the issue is actually. We people have spoken about all the issues around child protection, rehabilitation, which is key. But I think there's a more fundamental question about who you are as a Nigerian. And I mentioned to him this morning that the whole concept of Nigeria as a nation is already something that we really need to investigate. Who are you as a Nigerian? What do we think we are? What are our rights? What perspective do we have, towards being a Nigerian? But the whole discussion has always been in the past about the rights of people, rights of children, and all of that. And we have always talked about how much we are oppressed as Nigerians, the economy, the socio-economic factors, what brings us together with the different ethnic groups, and how we can project ourselves as Nigerians. We've talked about all the breaches in the rules, but I tell you, in Nigeria, we have too many rules. We have the laws, and everything is in order. I think the major thing is about enforcement. How do we enforce our laws? So in Nigeria, we have always discussed about, rights are being infringed upon, whatever. But the critical thing that our chairman spoke about was this critical idea of, it's not about the people whose rights are being trampled upon. It's also about the other side that we don't usually look at. And I think from how our chairman spoke, it wasn't so averse to the fact that the young people were arrested. I think the idea is, what did they do? What role did they play? If I'm reading your mind correctly. It's about where can we lay the problem? What is the foundation of the problem? I'm still talking about being that Nigerian whose rights are being trampled upon. But take it further. Like I said this morning to Kuti, we need a sense of re-Nigerianization of the citizens of this country. What is re-Nigerianization? It is a concept that occurred to me as something that we need to even identify who we are as a people. What are our core values? And this is also related to that, your socioeconomic issues that you raised. Who are we as Nigerians? We've seen the Japa syndrome, and people are being jackpot back into Nigeria now, especially the young ones. Somebody said, if you jackpot, you will jackpot. And it's happening, whether by force or by will. That is one aspect of our re-Nigerianization. We're looking at what is going on. What are we? What can we get? I think people are generally not happy with that concept we call Nigeria. And that is the core of the problem. If we don't value ourselves, what exactly can we offer this country as a whole? So when you talk about the Nigerian youth, and Nigerian population is very youthful, so it's as though we are losing the vital link, that vital thing that makes you a Nigerian. So we need to start assessing all these rules that we have on papers. And we have to start thinking of how to connect it to our people, especially the young ones. So the re-Nigerianization of Nigerians now will occur when we can actually own up to this entity we call Nigeria first, and be proud of it, and be able to move forward with that concept of us being that Nigerian. But I want to say that want to differ a little from people who believe that the arrest of those young ones was okay. I really want to differ because we have this thing in the north. I know the boys were mostly arrested from Kano and all of that, and I know they might have committed whatever offense or offenses. That's not in question, and there's no problem about arresting young people. It is the way we handle the young people that will be crucial, and her worship actually alluded to that. So practically, there is no problem about arresting young people. But what exactly is the state of our juvenile justice system? Do we have enough Boston homes for these people? Do we have even enough? We may have all the policies on paper, but do we have what it takes to really rehabilitate these people? Like our worship said, yes, in other countries, there are different social development plans for the young persons, for the family as a whole. In Nigeria, we can't say that. So there's something about how we treat ourselves as Nigerians. What is it that we want to achieve with the country, the baby called Nigeria? So what we need to do is to sensitize ourselves about where we may know the rules, but we need to really rethink who we think we are as a people. So in our nation, we have different ethnic groups. We're in Yoruba culture that I'm very sure of. We have this process of Iwofa, where you use children as not even slaves. You will use them as a kind of a pawn. If you need a loan, you can send your child, and you say that process is not ongoing. It is still very much alive. We may not call it a warfare now, but we'll call it, okay, allow my child to live with you so that you can help us pay for our school fees, or you can do this and that. That is still something that is very relevant in our society. It's servitude. It is almost slavery. You see? But as a culture, we need to rethink some of these things. And our worship alluded to the system where it is your neighbor that will call the police on you. In today's world, so many things we see, we look away. And when we look away, it is not the people perpetrating the evil that really will be at fault. It is those of us that really look away. I have been privileged to attend the family section of the civil defense unit. There's a process they have where you can actually work with them if one of the officers have offended or if they have done anything wrong. And it amazed me that even with all the authority and all the laws, we still are not able to do the right thing. It is either that those of us in uniform, we kind of protect ourselves, sometimes quietly, not so spoken, but there are things that we do to make sure that, okay, we're doing the right thing, we're enforcing, but we're not really enforcing. So for the young ones, who suffers from all of this is the children, the young people. And Nigerian having a youthful population, there is that need, there's a call for every one of us to really do the right thing, to think about whether we like it or not, we're Nigerians. We have to re-Nigerianize ourselves such that we're able to stand tall and protect as much as possible all the members of the society, particularly the young ones. But I will walk away from here with this thought. I want to leave you with a thought. And the thought is this. Today we're here. I was actually talking to somebody yesterday, and he told me to send in names of people who have passed in our family because they want to honor them one way or the other. And I thought about it. I'm like, okay, there was a time that we used to run around as children after these people. And the common factor then was the community owned the children. Our uncles, our great uncles, our aunties, even people who were not related to us, who were just like distant, they were there protecting us. And today, I see that everybody is so independent. Everybody is so taken away from every other person. And the worst thing to happen to us is technology. Whether we like it or not, technology will take us far. And we have to align with it. But this is a call for every one of us to think about the future as we expect it to be, and what legacies we intend to leave for the young ones. Whether we like it or not, the world is giving them legacies that we have not taught them. And in managing that, we need to be very intentional about what we do to our young ones, how we protect them, and what we tell them about this project called Nigeria, so that in the nearest future, we will not be talking about rules on the table, we'll be talking about rules that are applicable to us as people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can you please give her a round of applause once again? That was Professor. That was a professorial talk. And I gained a number of things, that we should not point fingers. I should look inward. What am I doing? And I would like to add something. You know what she said about Iwofa? There's this particular cause. Today marks the end, the 16th day of the activism against gender-based violence. And then for me and my organization, we've been going to schools to educate them on child abuse, domestic violence, and gender-based violence, and how to protect themselves. And then I met this particular girl who told me that she stays with her uncle. And then she said, Ma, I want to see you. And then I said, okay, what? Said, that thing you told us about, my uncle does it to me. I said, what's that? Said, he rapes me. I said, seriously? I said, have you told your mother about that? She said, yes. Said, what did your mother say? Said, my mom said, if I still want to go to school, I have to remain there. And that I should just shout, I want to go to, whenever he comes to touch me, I should just say, I want to go to my house, oh, I want to go to my house, oh, and then he will leave me alone. I said, seriously, give me your mother's number. And then I got the mother's number. Coincidentally, it was my kid's school. And so my son came back home with a note from her saying, please, that phone number she gave me, I should please not do anything about it, because she has sat down and thought about the repercussions of what will happen to her if this thing gets out there, because they've so to tell her that there's no other way. It's either you take these things happening to you lying down, or there's no education for you. So that's the society we find ourselves in right now. So okay. Okay, ma'am. I'll reach out to you later, ma'am. Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it seems we have solution already. Thank you very much, ma'am. So next to how would I say, to further inform us, enlighten us, and speak to us on this brilliant topic that has been listed for today. I'm trying to get the topic. An appraisal of the arrest and prosecution of minors by law enforcement agencies. That's the topic. So I'll be calling up architect Dr. Kuti Ezebiru. You know, she was saying that he spoke with her before. I was like, as an architect, what are you doing in the midst of lawyers? I actually met him when I was in year 1 or year 2 in Unilag. And then I am a human rights educationist today because of him. He sparked up something, and then I took it over from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wish to indulge your acceptance of my standing on the existing protocol. A very lazy way to go about not greeting people. Please forgive that because we're running short of time. My Egmont, you probably don't know me, but I know you. It's interesting that there had been a confluence of ideas, submissions, conclusions by people who didn't cross-fertilize their papers or their ideas. All that united people before now was just the topic. But the beauty of truthfulness, intellectual rigorosity, and objectivity is that if you independently ventilate an idea, the tendency is that if you are honest, if you are mentally clarified, and pretty well informed about the subject, you will independently nearly always come more or less to the same conclusion, howbeit from different perspectives. That is what I have observed today, and the ball was beautifully set rolling by, her Highness, who did a very beautiful, scholarly, and perspicuous work. And so I would rather just take off the tangent because as she was speaking, I might as well have written the same paper. When Brother GT was talking, he could probably may have been a resource person for the paper. And so I would just extend this issue in order not to be guilty of analysis paralysis. So the issue here is, maybe you would have noticed it, but maybe I should give it some kind of definition. We are dealing with the crisis of the absence of systems. If it is not as bad as that, then we are dealing with the crisis of the presence of a very rickety system. So if you do not want to accept that there is an absence of system, the problem here today may be a bit attenuated, so we say it is the presence of a rickety system. The beautiful thing is if you ventilate the laws, if you research the laws, like she had shown us, Nigerians are very perspicuous, creative, and truly we stand amongst the best in the world. The effort that had been made in the Child Rights Act would stand even in paradise. Let's not even talk about the developed countries. It will stand even in paradise. It will align with the scriptures. It will align with egalitarian societies. But is that the reality? No. So what is wrong? She said, we have a whole lot to do with implementation. When you have problem with implementation, whereas ab initio you had good ideas, you've documented those good ideas, you have canonized them, you have even to some extent domesticated them, but for some reason there is a ricketiness in the infrastructure of implementation, then it means you have an absence of system. You have institutional weakness or indolence. And that is where we begin to look at the political economy of the rule of law. The government inadvertently, by not looking through so many things, the law enforcement overzealousness, the mediocrity of the processes of implementing laws and carrying out statutory functions led to children being hounded, taken to court, practically abducted in their home country. The implication of that is that the system failed and managed somehow to serve the purposes of bandits and terrorists. You became somewhat guilty inadvertently of being recruiting agency for banditry. I want to believe that 90% of those children haven't left that situation, having escaped that harrowing experience. If someone in the class of Shekau, the former Boko Haram leader, approaches any one of them, say some good words, buy them some clothing, feed them even once a day, they would do his bidding. So by that failure, what have we done? We have inadvertently become recruiting agency for the banditry we decry. So the implication is that somehow, like Her Highness said, if you fail to do the right thing for a child, then you succeed in, I'm paraphrasing it now, encountering that child in a manner that bespeaks of that failure in the past. And so the area boys and area girls and the wrong girls of of today, were those children that we ignored yesterday. So that is how we begin to appreciate the political economy of the rule of law. And then we actually take a lot of things for granted. I was speaking with the professor and I said, I do not think just glossing over issues like this without looking at the fundamentals of basic concepts that it serves us. It doesn't serve us. What is the historical evolution of what we want to arrogate to ourselves in terms of our status as members of a society? You tend to just take it for granted that you are a citizen. I said it sometimes ago, I have always said it. It is not true. The social contract between the state and the individual is a contract that can be examined through legal means and through the laws as are enshrined in the Constitution. So that means the state has certain obligations to you as an individual, and you also have obligations to the state, which is to say that there is an enterprise, some kind of give and take, which is to say that if the state fails in those regards, there is a breach. If you fail in those regards too, that concerns you as an individual, as a citizen, there is a breach. So we ask eminent ones, both the legal luminaries, the magistracy, the judiciary, when does it become right for an individual to be right in abdicating his duties and responsibility to the state? Because if there is a breach, if you have failed in the social contract, and our deal is no longer on the table, when is it right for me to take a gun after you? When does it become right for the individual to be right in actually confronting the state from abdicating from the contract? So are we teaching social contract? Are we going to campaign and enlighten people so that they can demand that human right? Like everybody said, my brother GT said, it is not just the states or the authorities that can give you your right. Like Fela also said, they don't have to consciously come to you and respect your right. You should also know your right enough to be able to demand it. Now, where that consciousness is lacking, then ignorance mediates the issues that become extant as a breakdown of law and order. And then again, we have a debacle here. Ignorance is not an excuse. So you see, it's a vicious circle. You are ignorant of your rights, and the state is guilty to an extent for making you ignorant, because if the state had played its part in educating the child appropriately, then the child will grow up to be a socially conscious entity. And the Child Rights Act says there are three things that make a child answerable in law. First, the age, then the consciousness, the notion that at the point of commission of that crime, the child is truly conscious that the act he or she is committing was wrong. You must be able to prove that first before you can proceed with actually dealing with that child. You must be able to prove that at the point of commission of that crime, the child knew that it was a crime. So that becomes the burden on the state or whoever is litigating. Now, if the child has structurally been conditioned to be ignorant, which is basically what is happening, what is the percentage of the school dropout? We are probably topping the world. So on the one hand, the system negates its responsibility, and then you produce a mass of children that are demi-illiterate, totally and completely unconscious of too many things that make them decent modern entities. And then on the other hand, when they act in accordance with the way you have socially constructed them, you unleash the facility or the infrastructure of justice against them. So it is a vicious circle. So the question stands, in this social contract where the government or the state is failing, the government is breaching, society is breaching tenets of the agreement, when does it become proper for the child or even the normal ordinary person who thinks he's a citizen? Because I said historically there's an evolution of rights to the point where now we are talking of citizens. Those of us here talking of citizens, our grandfathers were not citizens. They were subjects of the British government. They were subjects. They didn't dare call themselves citizens. So we evolved. But in this evolution where we want to believe we are citizens, if we look at what it takes to be a citizen, even by our ground norm, we will begin to see that truly we have not yet arrived at citizenry. We have not yet arrived there. So before our grandfathers or grandparents, we had people who lived maybe in the 16th, 17th century. They were mostly serfs. So you see, there's evolution. You hardly, could talk about members of a society then without talking about the aristocracy, the monarchy, and the serfs. Then you had the slaves and the masters, and those who were also cohabiting in that same loose society, also called subjects. So citizenship is a recent thing, a product of capitalism, the evolution of nation states after the collapse of kingdoms and empires, and then you have, a scenario now where you have the international trade and smaller pockets of, societies you call nation states. So you are talking of, now we even evolve beyond that. People are now consumers. It's another form of definition. So in this instance, citizens becoming consumers and consumers actually becoming dual citizens of being consumed and consumer, because democracy is giving way to corporatocracy. So which also makes it clear that while we talk about free enterprise, we talk about society, in a modern context, we should be very careful of that gray area that makes everything farcical. I just mentioned democracy. It just really doesn't exist. Because if it is government of the people, for the people, by the people, it means you expect them to vote. If you expect them to vote, it means you expect them to have the cognate capacity to think through the issues and make decisions. Now, again, we're back to people who were not properly raised, who were not properly schooled. So to make that decision qualitatively has been hampered a priori and ab initio. So was that fellow voting if the person is constructed on a platform of ignorance and mediocrity? No, you stole the vote from the moment you made him or her incapable of making proper individual analysis that is clarified. So there's no democracy. You only have people being shepherded to think that they are voting, and then some people in the elite class play games over them and share the loot with their cronies. So it's corporatocracy, corporate organizations coming together to fool everybody. So these children are actually the first nationwide dramatization of the crisis we are talking about, the crisis of consent, the political economy of the rule of law. You just mount it on the media, talk about it in the social, and it looks like these people are civilized people talking about law. But it is not true. So I like to just be that intellectual assassin that shoots down constructs. And I hope I have succeeded in shooting down a bit of constructs and giving some assignment to eminent people who are hereby present. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to say anything, so you won't say it's because I know him. But I hope we got one or two things. Before I get penalized, I have been told to do this a number of times, but skip my mind. Please, I would like to recognize the presence of Mrs. Joyce Odua, the former Secretary General Association. You're welcome, ma'am. My apologies for the delayed introduction. Okay, so in the spirit of gender balance, I think we'll be calling the woman next. Yes. Um, sorry, pardon me. I want to get out our introduction. Pardon me, pardon me. Okay, she's Mrs. Adako Mbama, Esquire. Okay. Mrs. Adako Mbama is the pioneer chairperson, FIDA Nigeria, Badagry branch. She holds a BA honors in English language from the University of Port Harcourt, River State, an LLB honors in an LLM in maritime and commercial law. A professional qualification. She's also a notary public. Mrs. Adako Maureen Umbama is a partner in Condor Attorneys and heads of Maritime Admiralty Arbitration and Commercial Department of the law firm. She is a litigator and also a member of the Nigerian Institute of Chartered Arbitrators. Her field of specialty includes criminal law, admiralty law, corporate and commercial law, joint venture agreements, insurance law, intellectual property law, and real estate. She was the vice chairperson of International Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA, Lagos State branch, and litigated on pro bono basis for FIDA. She was the head of parliamentary committee of FIDA, Lagos State branch. She is the initiator of Let's Talk Law webinar series, which has seasons. She is the pioneer chairperson of FIDA Nigeria Badagry branch. She just handed over 3 days ago. Congratulations. So she's currently a member of the Board of Trustees of Legal Advocacy Response to Drug Initiative, which is UNODC, and as its technical partners. She also serves as the National Treasurer of LADI. She is married to Dr. Jude Pius Mbama, and they have children. So that's a brief introduction of our next panelist, who would come and do justice to this matter of ours. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Will you prefer to sit or come up here?
Mr. Chairman, sir, permit me to stand on the already established protocol. Before I continue, I would like to ask why we don't have children here. We're talking about child's right law. Okay, just one. We're supposed to have more. We're supposed to create that awareness because children's rights are human rights. So if we're talking about children, they ought to be here. Don't you think so? Okay, most of them have exams. Okay. That's okay. If most of them have exams, try to find a way, get at it, that there could be opportunities where you invite them. Because this discussion, this conversation is meant to create awareness and impact on those children. We're all adults. So, anyway, I brought this to even show them, to tell you that I felt that we would have them here, so that they will know that, like Honor said, Lagos State child 2015. So I brought it specifically
to show them, thinking they will be here, for them to read and understand what it means to have rights. Under this law, we have 15 rights of the child, from the right to survive, the right to a name, of course, religion, freedom of association, liberty, dignity, not to be discriminated upon. There are 15 of them. I would have loved them to look at it. Now, we all know what happened in November, the first week of November, to the chagrin of all of us, that 32 minors, children, we are arraigned before a federal high court. Children before federal high court. Please, what is the business of a child in a federal high court? Not a juvenile court, not a family court. And we were all at ease and at peace with that. Some of us, okay, let's say some of us, because I hear we were not. Yes. It's an aberration. You all know, is it not? Because a child shouldn't be found in a federal high court for any reason. Those are there. The manner when they came in, how they were looking. You know, first and foremost, the arrest. And I'm wondering, because the law says that if you arrest a child, the parents should be notified immediately. And if you can't get the parents, the guardians should be notified immediately, and there should be a possible consideration of release. So bringing 32 children, if not for the judge, Justice Segwa Tobi Oregatu, that said, no great, come inside, you know. Now, the whole judicial proceeding and process from their arrest, they were detained for 3 months, from August to November. The Constitution says you shouldn't be detained for more than 48 hours. 48 hours. From that time, even detaining them with adults, not even in remand homes, not for institutional correctional facilities for juniors, for minors, for children, keeping some of them with hardened criminals that made them pick some things, some behavioral patterns from those criminals. There is no how a child will be put with hardened criminals and will not hear things, will not see things, and will not pick things. So those things are in them for life. When you arrest a child, of course, any child that is up to 12 years can be arrested. When you are 7 years and below, of course, you are free from criminal responsibility. That's the law. Yes, fine and good. Arrest them if you must. Do the right thing. Keep them where they will be catered for. Do you know that the law says that those children ought to have been going to school? You shouldn't deprive them of education, health care, good environment, good food, medical facilities. And we all saw how these children were looking, to the extent that 4 collapsed in courts. This is the height of it. This is the height of our judicial and criminal administration system. That I can't, in fact, it's unbelievable. That apart, What did they do? Which offense did they commit? Mutiny? A child? If they were even brought in for very relevant things, treason, a child? What are we talking about here? Under the Acts, the Child's Right Act that has been domesticated in Lagos as the Child's Right Law, a child, even if is in conflict of law, that child should be heard in a special court, not an open court. The parents will be there. The parents are even going to be parts of the proceedings. None of that was given. None of that was done. And what I don't even understand is why the police, how many, I can see only one policeman here. Sorry. They are more than that, really. Okay, they are not in uniform. Or is it my glasses? Why the police, who has a unit? You know there is a child's unit in the police force. Why the police who has that unit couldn't look at the laws guiding them, guiding the children on arrest, detention, remands, remittals, and all that? Why they couldn't follow that? Why they couldn't implement that law is something that calls for serious thoughts. You just bundle people, bundle children, as though they were just goats. Cramp them up in a place. When the law says that you should take good care in the paramount interest, even if you're going to in their remand homes, we even visit correctional centers. You find that their remand homes, their correctional centers, where they are always neat, they are well fed, they are well taken care of, so that they'll feel as though they are at home, even if they have committed offenses that are quite criminal. But the 32 that came out to that court that day, you and I know that they were looking like malnourished children. They were looking like people who never had any form of, in fact, access to justice and access to education, wherever they brought them from, which is not the case with the law. I think there should always be training and retraining of our police force. Because it's a shame on Nigeria. A big shame that after investigation, they found those children worthy to face the law, and in a federal high court. What's the connection? Because it's treason, forgetting that we have a Child's Right Act that says it should be the juvenile court or family court. In Lagos State, family court, whether it's criminal or even civil, in practice. So what went wrong? You know what is wrong? The adults. If adults can't simply adhere to the rules and regulations, to the constitution of the country, why should our youth, children, even obey us at home? Let's start from that. Keeping you under detention for 3 months. One day, a child will read up the 1999 Constitution as amended and say, oh, So you mean it's even 48 hours? I shouldn't be there from. So these big mummies and big daddies that kept us there are just something else. That is how it starts. Let us learn to do the right thing, because you can't be doing the wrong thing and expect the younger generation, which I thought I would see here today, to listen to us. Children's rights are human rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma. That was a very passionate one. The next panelist to take the floor is Barrister Inibehe Efyang. I don't need to read them. I wasted enough time today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My Lord, the Chief Judge represented, Your Honor, it's actually Your Honor, not Your Majesty, sir. Thank you. Yes, it said Highness. Oh, okay. Thank you, Your Highness. Absolutely. Thank you. The chair of the occasion, I can also see the chairman of the branch. Congratulations, sir. Now, I think I will try to be brief. The points have been made. Except to say that the problem that children are going through in our country, the challenges that children are experiencing, it is because Nigeria is a country where nobody's really thinking about the future. Yes, because I keep saying I'm not a leader of tomorrow. I have been rebuking that since I was very young. I don't like being called leader of tomorrow. Aha. They've been telling us we are leaders of tomorrow. That tomorrow would have never come. So, this episode that played out, where 32 minors were taken before a court, I think it is important for us to understand that it is not isolated. Let us not pretend that, oh, this was just a one-off thing. On a daily basis in Nigeria, policemen are arresting children. Yes. If you go to police stations in Lagos, minors are being detained. Yes. If you go to police stations across Nigeria, children are being detained. If you go to even military facilities in this country, minors are being detained. So we are dealing with a systemic problem. And quite sadly, our institutions are weak. And then even the process of seeking redress is also problematic. So it is easy to condemn the police or the IG for filing that very scandalous charge. But it was the judge who remanded those children for 3 months. The police actually went to court, got a remand order, and kept them for 3 months. Even when we approached the court to have that order vacated, that was not done. The application was not taken. So I believe the judiciary also has a role to play, or responsibility in what happened. And the other point is that when the embarrassment became too much, the Tinubu government decided to pretend that as if the president was not aware. Suddenly, the vice president was wearing agbada, welcoming the children. They put all of them in uniform. They were taking them to the villa. I said, what is all this nonsense? Where was the vice president when this matter has been in the news for 3 months? And suddenly you were buying them GSM phone, putting them in bus. I said, what is wrong with this? Are these serious people? They were making a carnival out of it. In the same Abuja that children are begging on the road and their convoys are seeing. They are seeing them every day. Politicians in Nigeria do not care for our children. And that is why, in putting context to this conversation, It explains why they have destroyed public education. I speak to you today because I'm a product of public education, from primary to university. I did not have the benefit of going to the Ivy League private schools. So when we have conversation about the child rights, the children in Lagos, what is the quality of their education? The children in Zamfara, what is the quality of their education? In Kano, the governor who was saying that Borno governor, they shouldn't have released them. What is the level of out of school children, the percentage in that state? Can he tell us the money that is budgeted for education in a state, can they account for it? So those who say they are leaders in our country, they have bastardized public education, the same way they have bastardized public health, hospitals. So the children of the poor, they now impose a destiny on them that they do not wish for themselves. I take a position that even if those children committed violence, that violence was inspired by the Nigerian state. Because in the first place, Section 83 sub 4 of the Police Act 2020 is clear that the right to protest, which children are not excluded from exercising, by the way, once the police is notified that there will be right for protest, duty to ensure that the protesters are protected. The reason why the protests in Kano and some other places went violent was because, as usual, the police decided to attack the protesters. And they are claiming they did this. I saw the proof of evidence. Meanwhile, filed by senior advocates. Lawyers are part of the problem of Nigeria. It is a senior advocate that filed that embarrassing charge. And we must begin to look at some of our colleagues in the face and tell them the truth. Go and look at the nonsense that they file. There is no evidence, there is nothing to support the charge. And a lawyer came out on national TV and said some of them are married, they are not children. Why is he not? And walk away with it. So we as a profession, we must also take responsibility for what is going on. We must take a responsibility. So I like to be practical about these things. I support the points that our chairman made, that we should not, be having children with number of children we cannot cater for. But sir, that problem is not isolated to the poor. The rich people in our country also have many children. Yes, they have many of them. The reason why we don't talk about them is that they are stealing public money to take care of those children. That is the difference. That is the difference. And they are using our money to send those children to schools abroad. Yes. The man that is our president today, one of his child has a house that they bought thousands of pounds abroad. There is no job he would have done to buy that property. So when we speak about the Nigerian child, we only stigmatize the children of the poor for conditions imposed on them by the rich. Yes, that is the way I see it. If the rights of children will be respected in our country, those that have access to resources to take care of the children should be held accountable. In rounding up, my own is that what I don't understand about the police, I have a very interesting relationship with the police. What I don't understand about our law enforcement, the police in particular, is that most of them live in a state of permanent delusion. They have refused to accept that they are also victims of the Nigerian state. Recently, policemen were evicted from Falomo Barracks. They sent their representatives to my office. And I look at them. How much did Lagos State government and the IG gave them to get accommodation elsewhere? The money that would, I think 2 million, that cannot get any good accommodation close to where they are posted to serve. They have families, they have children too. How many police officers in Nigeria today can afford to send their children to good schools? So when I see policemen sent to attack people that are protesting, I just laugh at them. Yes, I laugh at them. So we must have that sense of self-awareness. And Because today is International Human Rights Day, and because the chairman of the branch, Maebuche, mentioned it in his opening remark, I think the trendy human rights issue in Nigeria today is the case of our comrade Dele Farotimi, who wrote an interesting book. I may not have written the book in the language that he did. I don't know the evidence that supports what he wrote. Okay? But you know, I also have my own grievance with the Nigerian judiciary. Yes. But that is not the conversation for today. But you see, assuming that he has committed a crime, I'm saying this because it is International Human Rights Day. Assuming that Dele Farotimi defamed our very learned institution, our Chief Afe Babalola is saying. And the defamation is that he claimed Afe corrupted the Supreme Court or the judiciary. So do you have to now vindicate him by weaponizing the same institution just to prove a point? As we're having this conversation today, a magistrate in Ekiti has just adjourned ruling on bail application by another 10 days. Another 10 days. In a so-called offense of defamation, the maximum punishment is 2 years. Meanwhile, yesterday, when he was arraigned on a so-called cybercrime charge, oral application for bail was made. They just entertained the application and granted him bail. Federal High Court. But a magistrate in Ekiti is pretending to be enforcing the law. A magistrate in Ekiti is giving the impression that this is a trial. It is a sham. Because you're already telling us that you are not going to give him fair trial. He was brought before you. You say, no, I cannot entertain oral application. Go and put it in writing. In a magistrate court. Okay, put it in writing. Not come back 2 days time, 1 week. Oh yeah, now they came back today on International Human Rights Day. You are adjourned 10 days. You need to sleep for 10 days to determine whether to grant him bail. The judiciary, and not the entire judiciary, but we must be mindful of this institution. We must be very careful. And then the police came to Lagos to arrest him. Even the Lagos Police Command was not notified. Zone 2 was not notified as required under police regulations. Under the law, if you are effecting interstate arrest, they should have taken him before a magistrate in Lagos. They did not. And in fact, under our law, the ACJ of Lagos, the magistrate in Lagos would have even had power to grant him bail and to even see whether the basis for that warrant, if they had, was valid or not. They didn't do this. They drove him for hours to Ekiti. So, speaking about whether it's discharge right, we are dealing with a system that is designed to oppress us. And I know I've said finally, but I'm tempted to say this. We are playing with fire. One day it will be too late. I'm saying it to our politicians and our men in uniform. A day will come that your gun will not be able to stop Nigerians. And we are getting there. Because there's a limit to human tolerance. They are pushing us. NSAS happened, nobody learnt a lesson. Bad governance happened, nobody learnt any lesson. A day will come that all the policemen and the armed forces in Nigeria will not be able to stop people. We have refused to learn from history. And they look at what is happening across the globe. You can't continue to do things like this. The day of reckoning for our politicians is coming. And when that day comes, even the children they are abandoning will be at the front of that struggle. Thank you.
Okay, so in the next 5 minutes, we'll be taking questions and reactions. We just want the representative of the CJ to just, at least we need to hear your voice on this matter, ma'am. So please, you're welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll stand on existing protocol Yes, I bear the good wishes of the Honorable Chief Judge Justice Kasim Alugba, who has asked me to extend his well wishes to this occasion and to wish us well as we celebrate another International Human Rights Day. Well, I've listened to all the panelists and everything that has been said by everything, but I want us to take something away from here, that charity begins from the home. All these educations, we owe it to our children to tell them what is right and what is wrong. A lot of children that committed havoc in the society, we found that most times they've been left to themselves by the parents who are chasing money because of the hardship, and both parents have to work. And most of these children are left to the care of the nannies who doesn't even know better. Because if the Child Rights Act it's available for every parent to take and go through and tell the children these are the rights that is available to you under the Constitution. But most parents don't even know what these rights are because they don't know better. And when the parents don't know better, then what are they going to give to their children? So we need to teach our children right from the home that when a child comes home with a pencil that does not belong to him, and then the parent does not scold the child and ask, where did you get this from? But rather, you rub the child on the head, oh, well done, well done, well done. Then the child will believe that stealing other people's things from the school and bringing them home is right. And then the child will definitely come in conflict with the law. And then will now be saying, oh, why is the child in conflict with the law? So we need to start from our home. We need to start teaching our children what is right, what is wrong. We need to pay attention to our children. If you don't advise your children, if you don't pay attention to your children, their peers in the society, in school, will teach them what is wrong. A child that is given the right knowledge, even when they go astray, they will still come back because they know that the parents have instilled the right foundation upon them. So we need not shy away from our responsibility as parents. What we have found in the society, the problem in the society is a failure of the home. As parents, we need to go back and start laying the right foundations for our children. In 2020, the Nigerian Prison Service said there are about 2,000 children that were in various prisons all over Nigeria. And that was the data as of 2020. That is what I could lay my hands on. And you begin to wonder, 2,000 children in Nigerian prisons. And you cannot blame the legal system or the judiciary, because most of the times when the police brings in charges to you, you assume that a person that is before you is 18 years based on the charge, until you now descend and start asking questions that this person looks too young to be 18, and you start asking probing questions before you will discover that this is a child. So, in all, I'm going to appeal to us as parents. We need to go back to the drawing board. Which is more important to us, our children or money? Nobody is saying we shouldn't look for money, but we should still find out time out of our busy schedule to pay attention to our children. Teach them the basic things. Teach them what is right. Teach them what is wrong. When you have discharged your duty, whenever they now come in conflict with the law, then you will be able to say, yes, I've done my bit. Maybe give or take, maybe it's peer pressure or anything. But it will not be. Then we need to teach them to respect our monuments. That is our institutions. Because when you find out that during riot, you see them, children will be attacking public edifice, destroying things that belongs to the government. And when you do this, you don't expect the government to fold its hand, like the wanton destruction that was done to the High Court of Lagos State during the NSAS. We are yet to recover from this as a judiciary. We are still battling with the effect of NSAS because most of our courts were destroyed by these rampages, by these protesters. So we need to know that the law is not saying that don't express your grievance, but do it in the lawful way where you will not come in conflict with the law. And I believe that when we do this, then the government will be able to listen to us. But when you now go about destroying government property, which our money, the taxpayer money, will be used to rebuild, then you are telling government, then you know how to do better. But I think I will appeal to us that nobody is saying we shouldn't protest against policies of government, but we need to do it in a civil way, and then the government will listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. You know, I said it, that she has something important to add to this discussion. So, it's time for comments, questions, reactions. Questions, comments, reactions? Okay, yes, ma'am. Please, you state who you're directing the question to, or who you prefer to answer the question.
My name is Vera Chumba. I'm from Fida, Badagry. I didn't hear anybody mention that. I also want to thank the speakers for enlightening us on this issue of child abuse. Recently, not too long ago, about 100 orphaned and underage girls were forced into marriage in Niger State. And that marriage violates the Right Child's Act and VAP. I was wondering why the state government, instead of rolling the children back to school, decided to give them out in marriage. Many of them were really underage. You know, at the time they should be in school, they are being forced to marriage. The carriage system is also not well developed. And when the challenges come, they are thrown out in the streets and abandoned. You know, I really felt bad when I saw that. But in this instance, what should the, I also understand that only 24 states in the Federation has adopted the Right Child's Law. What? 35 now. All right, thank you for that correction. It used to be 24. You know, I don't know the reason why our children will be subjected. I call it humiliation, dehumanization, you know, and they all came from a very poor background. I don't know how the instrumentality of the law can be used, because it's obvious some of the state governors are not, politicians are not interested in the welfare and care of the children. They are not interested in giving life to the law in protection of these children. So I wonder what new dimension that can be brought into it that can energize the law to do what it's supposed to do, because that is why the law is there. Thank you.
I don't know who would like to.
You know, Nigeria is an interesting country. And the older you get, the more seasoned you are, the better you are able to, in a reflective manner, introspective manner, engage the Nigerian dilemma. The question you ask is a very important question, and there are a number of ways we can deal with it with the law. We can do a petition to the Attorney General of the Federation, for example, and ask that he should intervene, whether by instituting an action, because it's a violation of the child rights against Niger state government. Because in this case, it is the state government itself that is a violator. And then take it up at that level. If the AG of the Federation does not act, we can later bring an action for another mandamus and all that, just to ensure that he acts. At the level of our organization, FIDA, other organization that feel strongly about this, and there's a reason why all of us should feel strongly about it. we can also file an action, do petition, and later on file an action. Because the issue you addressed is commonplace. It's not only in Niger State they do in Kano, mass wedding, many of them underage children and all that. It's very unfortunate that should be the priority of a state government. That is not even educating the children or sending them to school. But you know, Nigeria has this cultural diversity, social diversity, economic diversity, geographical diversity. Nigeria is a diverse country. And on many occasions in the past, even on the floor of the National Assembly, when these issues are raised, people are accused of insensitivity, of lack of respect for culture, for the way of life of people that we are accused of perpetrating these things. In any case, some of the persons in government that you may want to petition to also involved in this. Some of them go outside the country to import wives that are underage, and they say that that's the culture, that's the religion and all that. So it's also a very sensitive matter. Historically, and nobody should, because when you also raise that issue, because there's uneven development, there is uneven social consciousness, there is uneven political consciousness. Historically in the past, because of socialization, cosmopolitanism, and all that, people around here have been the driver of many issues. And this is a fact. We directly engaged in the democratization process. And we also knew that we are challenged. Many of us here perhaps might not know why Shehu Sani became an anchor person in the North. We are all engaged in the process. We have a June 12th election. We thought we were going to build a national movement. There are some of our colleagues, comrades that we are associated with for years, many of them in the university, the radical movement in Nigeria, socialist movement that was participating in the process. We thought that our values were universal, but on that limited issue, we broke up. Our organizations broke over the limited issue of whether we should use the June 12th struggle to get rid of the military. It wasn't even a question of even supporting Abiola, because many people didn't even vote for him. Many still thought that the military was going to continue to take Nigeria on merry-go-round. It was a highway to nowhere, as Larry Diamond posited in his seminal book, that Babangida was just doing his thing and all that, and that it wasn't serious with that last election. But when the opportunity came, people rallied around and felt that, yes, this must be used. But on that limited question, our organization broke up. Our comrades, were saying that this matter was being ethnicized, that you are ethnicizing it. How could somebody who was not ready to struggle accuse you of hyper struggle? The indolent is accusing the active of struggling too much. That's what we encountered on that occasion. And so from that moment, it became a south-north thing. So I reckon that even on this issue, if you are to raise it and say now, they will say, people from who do not want their children to marry early and all that are now attacking us for doing the right thing. However, we should just agree that because we feel passionate about these things and because they are the right thing to do, we need to. That's even why the Child Rights Act, came about, and then the state, inch by inch, it has been a struggle. The northern states are the last state to sign up to these rights. So it's a difficult process, but no matter how difficult it is, there are steps we can take as lawyers to ensure that that the full benefits of these rights and freedoms are obtained.
Thank you, sir.
This has been a constitutional debate because our constitution says that, I think section 29, all that once you are married, you have become of age. And the same constitution says that if you've become of age, that means you're up to 18 years. So the controversy stems from our constitution. Now, the Child's Rights Act says 18 years as a child, while the Marriage Act talks about 21 years. Now, we should also know that we have different cultural and religious beliefs. I remember when this debate came about, our sisters in northern Nigeria, even under FIDA, and who are Muslims, said that I don't know, I'm not a Muslim, but their claim then was that that if a girl is married, she's of age. Do you understand? And that is what the Constitution says. If you go to your section 29, because if of age is claimed to be 18, so that contradiction is what may have prompted 100 girls being brides automatically. But that is very, very, very barbaric, because a girl child is a minor, and subjecting her to do what women do is unbelievable. It's a punishment on those girls. It's an aberration. Let us leave it at that, because there is a lot of lacuna in our constitution. So these are constitutional issues. That's where I keep it. Thank you.
Just to add, they are not constitutional issues as such. The constitution you are talking about, before the 1999 constitution, there is the 1979 constitution. You needed to have lived in that time to know the kind of virulent debate that took place in this country on this issue that we're talking about, and the issue of incorporation of Sharia into the constitution. It was like a civil war. So those things preceded the framing of it in the constitution. So the constitution was just reflecting by consensus and compromise all these issues that were there. And that was why I said earlier that Nigeria is an interesting society. And, you know, we will build standards, we will observe standards, but these are very deep issues. For example, even within the framework of what is constitutional or what is not constitutional, the Constitution says that you have a right to freedom of worship. So if your religious tenets accommodate what you call a girl-child marriage, a marriage of 12-year-old, there is already a contradiction, even within the constitutional framework, because you may come across as saying, my religion says I have a right to freedom of worship and to practice my religion, my religious faith. This is what my religion says I could do. And you are now saying that I shouldn't do it. So we have such problems, but as I have said, we must continue to push the boundaries. Society doesn't change because people are forebears just accepted as giving all that we've inherited as norms and values and traditions. Society changes because those norms and values that were regarded as settled were challenged, and then we have progress by and by.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the questions. We are still going to take two more questions, but before then, the representative of the Commissioner of Police, Lagos State, CP Shola Olariwaju, in the person of ACP Paul Azuka Okafo, he walked in, while we were handling the questions, and he has a few words for us. So we'll be calling him up. You can come up, sir.
The representative of the Attorney General of the state, Honorable Chief Judge of the state, the Chief Magistrate, Lagos State, other invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I want to start by apologizing. One, I left here to attend another function, another program, simply because the program did not start early here, and that program was at my instance. I stand on behalf of the Commissioner of Police, Lagos State Command, Mr. Ishola, CP Ishola Olarinwaju. I am not here to defend the police, because I know that we must have received bashing. But the fact is this: we are all Nigerians. We are all Nigerians. I became a police after becoming a Nigerian. So whatever you are, Nigeria must come first. An issue was raised by the NBA chairman before I left. He mentioned the issue of Farotimi. And one of the lawyers I respect in Nigeria is this barrister SAN, I guess it's an SAN, Ogunwe, that just left now. I followed him on Sunday or thereabouts, where he mentioned this issue of the arrest of Farotimi. And he said, I want to quote him, that is the offense for which he was arrested is a state offense. Lagos State may have pronounced, yes, defamation of character is civil, but the offense was not committed in Lagos only. So the federal government has the powers to arrest, so long as it's criminal at federal level. It's a criminal defamation. So let Nigerians get that. Criminal defamation. So he was arrested, Ekiti. Police that came here to arrest him, that is federal police. And they have the jurisdiction to arrest anybody who commits an offense anywhere within the federation. That is by the way. The mode of arrest, I'm not here to defend how he was arrested, but the reason for his arrest should be made known to Nigerians. Criminal defamation. And regarding the issue of the arrest of those minors, those alleged minors, yes, I want to make this clear. Police arrested. The charge was prepared by so at any point in time, we cannot act in isolation because we are part of the system. We may not have done it the way you want it done, but the issue is there's no government, there's no responsive government No responsible government will watch any form of breakdown of law and order and you fold your arms and okay, clap for them. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. We've been privileged to have policed outside Nigeria despite all odds, and we know what obtains outside Nigeria. But the fact is, another point is, those so-called minors, because my brother here, I watched him too on Arise TV. You are my brother, and I respect you so much. But sometimes we bring in sentiment into issues as Nigerians. The issue is, these are same people you call minors are votes. They vote, those same boys, they vote. But when they are arrested, they will bring down their ages. They will tell you, oh, I am just 15. Meanwhile, they are more than that, just because they want to evade prosecution. We may not have handled them well, but the issue is, they are not what you think they are. The Nigerian police may not have been there, but we're striving. With the leadership quality of our IGP Ebetoku Kayode, still in leadership quality, we are getting there by the grace of God. Arrests. It's a very difficult thing in Nigeria. Arrests. I wrote letters to people to come to the office to answer questions we raised. We don't just stand up as police and start arresting people. There must be a complaint. And by the time you invite some Nigerians, they will refuse, they will dishonor the invitation. The letter of invite will not be honored. They want you to come and arrest them. And there are instances that you don't need to send letter of invite to people. An armed robbery suspect, for instance, do you need to write a letter of invite to an armed robbery suspect? There are state offenses, criminal offenses, that you just have to go all out there and arrest the culprit. And we know how it works in some other crimes. When you go out to invite somebody too, they will honorably. Our blood is too thick. People are just not ready to obey the law too. Somebody said here that when we are faced with problem of arresting people, with the way and manner we do it, I want you to understand one thing, that the police is an integral part of the society. You cannot, let us be realistic. Those days, University of Benin, we used to say no to police, and Luther continua. We used to say it, but the practicality out there is different from what you see. What you see, what is written is not what is tenable. So I want to crave our indulgence. I want to beg us as Nigerians, let us love this nation. We may not have done it the way you want. And there's no nation where there's no police in the world where the police will do it the way you want. It's never done. We've seen arrest methods in the US where US police arrested people, and you saw it, how it ended too. We are not an island. We are getting there. With your support, with educated people like you here, you help us get there. Because the police officers are recruited from within us. They're not from the moon. And the hand of fellowship we extend. Somebody mentioned the issue of corruption. A lawyer was in my office 2 days ago. No, on Thursday last week. I asked him to go. I released the 3 suspects to him. He said, no, we must. I said, bail is free. Bail is free. Yes. I make bold to say this. Bail is free. What I want you to do is don't give. This on Thursday, I asked the lawyer to go with the 3 suspects. He was uncomfortable. I said, why? He went behind to to invite my boy. I said, is Oga angry? He said, no, that is how he operates. And he left. He called me. He called me even while we were coming back to this place. He called me. So bail is free. Don't give. I liken it to a civilian arrested for traffic offenses. Nigerians are not ready to stay. When you are arrested, they're in a hurry to leave. And in a bid to leaving them, you see them bringing out money to give. Spend time with them there. They will definitely ask you to go. We've had people that practiced or did this and it worked. Don't always be in a hurry. Nigerians are always in a hurry. Stay with them, insist you are not giving anything, and they cannot do otherwise. We have senior officers, we are correcting them. The junior ranks, when there's any infraction, we try as much as possible to correct them. And I remember during Abacha regime, late Abacha, a minister made a statement that he saw policemen collecting money and he looked the other way. And Abacha collected the microphone from him and he said, don't look the other way so you don't fall into a ditch. When you see that, correct that. See something, say something. Don't always expect us, don't expect a very perfect police in an imperfect system. That's the truth. We were striving, we will do our best. The IGP is doing his best. The Commissioner of Police Lagos State Command is doing his best. And I am doing my best too at my level to ensure that Nigerians get the best of our services. Quality service delivery, we will improve. We're improving. But I want to leave you with this. The same police we look down on, we are rated one of the best in the world. Yes. I have my badges here. By the grace of God, I've attended. I was in 3 peacekeeping missions in Darfur, in East Timor, and in Haiti last. I have my badges here. It's not for decoration. And we are rated one of the best in the world. Check the records. So there is something fundamentally wrong, which must be corrected. There's something fundamentally wrong. I wouldn't want to raise some issues here, but let us check ourselves. Let us examine ourselves too. Individually, are we doing the right thing where we work? Police is corrupt. Police, yes, I agree with you. But what do you do in your place of work? How do you treat people? Do you collect money too? I was in an office some couple of days ago. They collected money from me. I refused. And I insisted, yes. I wore mufti. I went to an office. They requested, not to police. Not police office. They demanded I should give them money. And I insisted. I had to see the head of that unit. So wherever you are, you will interface with the police. Please, don't be in a hurry to give them money. Refuse. It's your right not to give. It's your right. On that note, I want to beg us again. Police is your friend. That acronym, I told somebody the other time, if I'm asked to reverse it, I will say police should be your friend. A child that must be carried must first stretch his or her hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. But if there's anything that is uniform in everything that has been said today, it can be derived from the ACP statement, don't expect a perfect police from an imperfect society. So the duty is still on every one of us. We're still part of the mess up, and we are still going to be part of the cleanup. So, I don't know, any question? No more. Okay, so I'll be inviting. Is that time? Okay, I know I left someone hanging there, but the issue is time, please. Can we? We should take one. Okay, one question. That person. Okay. Oh yeah, your question. Okay. Okay, as that is going on, the panelists would take their pictures together. Okay.
Should I continue with my question? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Saz and Maz. So, my name is Otitoji Oluwatobiloba, a student of Yaba College of Technology, the first and still the best. So, I'll first of all like to thank the Nigeria Bar Association for this impactful and thoughtful event, just to educate the children and more often the youths. So, a lot has been said as regards child rights and every other thing. But I would like to. Are we together, please? Okay. So, I would like to ask a particular question based on the video I saw as regards the Russian flag that was raised in Nigeria, which led to the arrest of some children from the north and were arraigned to the Federal High Court. So, and a federal government counsel, a lawyer, says this, and I quote, "All of them are adults. Most of them are married men. None of them is a minor. Some of them are university graduates. The small kids you are seeing here came with their parents." So, what brought this is, I want to ask, it is okay to defend the government, it is okay to defend the other party in the court of law. So what I want to say is this, that are there any measures, knowing fully well that the video can't tell lies, knowing fully well that these people are children, and I must quote again what the chief magistrate just said. She said, "We can't give the right reasons to do the wrong things. Neither can we give the wrong reasons to do the right things." So, I want to ask, because I am very, very naive in the judicial system and all, I'm very, very naive, so I want to know that, is there any other thing that can be done, or are there measures taken in place, should I say, as against the statements that were made, that all of these people are children and they are not minors, and all other statements that were made. So I want to ask if, based on my naiveness, are there measures that can be taken as against the federal government council that said all of these things?
Anyone?
Well, on the issue of the Russian flag, let me start from there. I have made my personal opinion on this clear from day one. The argument of the government that carrying Russian flag is treason, for me, is unfounded. And the logic is simple. Will the government say the same thing if it is American flag, Canadian flag, Zimbabwean flag? What is peculiar about the Russian flag? Is it the color? Yes. What is special about the flag? In churches in Lagos and all over Nigeria, we see flags of foreign nations posted. Even hotels in Nigeria, they have foreign flags. So why is Russia and their flag special? I did not see the point in it. But if it is part of a general conspiracy, like those who were calling for military takeover, we condemn that entirely. That is not an option at all. If you are asking the military to take over what? We have experimented that it did not work. So we are not sentimental on that issue. But on the flag itself, without more, simply carrying flag by those children or whoever. I don't know who gave them the flag. And I was even saying that it is ironic that it is Russian flag they are carrying. Because if you are asking Russia to give you democracy, it shows you are not enlightened. In Putin's Russia, there is no room for opposition. Right? Those who speak the way I do, they are either killed or jailed, or they are in exile. So I don't know why Russia had to be part of the equation. But having said that, you know, when I was talking, I said, you know, you hear this thing. I think lawyers are part of the problem. And I say that as a lawyer. It is so easy to always, and I said I have an interesting relationship with the police. Many of the things we accuse police of, lawyers are complicit. Yes. I, as a lawyer, I'm currently representing a number of people in libel cases. When those clients come to me and say they are aggrieved, some of them say write a petition to the police. I've practiced law for 10 years. I have never written a petition on criminal defamation. But I'm currently handling several defamation cases across the country for people who said they were defamed. So I think it is also about personal ideology. The lawyer who was making that statement, of course he was a police lawyer, but guess what? Even his colleagues who were standing behind him, also police lawyers, they were laughing. It showed that his position was not popular. So let's not bastardize or bury the entire profession because of the indiscipline of one person. And he was making a mockery of himself. I'm sure his children were ashamed. If he's married, his wife may have denied him his conjugal rights that night. That you have embarrassed our family by saying that they are all married, they are not children. Well, let's even assume that they are adults, as Oga suggested. But on the face of the charge that was filed, you know, we did not just say there are 32 minors. I have the charge in my phone here. When you look at the charge file, on the face of the charge, the ages of these people were stated to be children. So it is the police that gave us the age of the children of these people. We did not on our own say they are minors. The government that charged them said they were minors. So I don't want you to be expectant that that lawyer will be disciplined. Don't raise your hope too high. Nigeria is going through moral crisis. As a matter of fact, that may have been his promotion. He will likely be promoted. Those who do things like that, they get promoted by the system. They get recognized by the system. But I'm saying that is not how to build a country. Yes, that is not how to build a country. Sapere Williams said, a lawyer lives for the direction of his people and the advancement of the cause of his country. So our colleagues who embarrass us, who embarrass our profession, we have a duty to checkmate them. Finally, the system is bad. The judiciary is not perfect. But there is no alternative. Just about 2 days ago, a magistrate in Nasarawa was dismissed on the basis of a petition that I wrote. Yes. For signing a fraudulent remand order. I wrote a petition and I followed up. Just 2 days ago, it was dismissed. So there are still possibilities where you can fight and get justice within the system. That is my answer to you.
Thank you very much. And that wraps up our question and answer or comment session. So I'll be inviting the chairman of the Human Rights Committee, IKEJA branch, to come and present the plaques.
Thank you so much for listening very attentively and for your patience. We want to apologize once again for starting this program a little behind schedule. We apologize. And we appreciate all of you that made out time to be here, especially the keynote speaker and the other guests and especially Mr. Ezebiro, who was the first person that came into this hall. That's after me. So, please, can I have them? And Mr. Inibehe. You saw the way we ushered him in as a special guest. We have our reasons for that. We don't have to let them know, you know. So, can we have the plaques, please? I will be inviting my predecessor in office and the chairman of this great branch to help me to do these honors. Chairman, sir.
We're not surprised, the keynote speaker. She covered the field, being the spouse of an ex-international footballer. And I was so impressed with her speech. I've asked whether she would kindly oblige us. It's an intellectual material that we should look into more closely and disseminate and educate and propagate, particularly because one of the panelists was asking why the children are not here. So, on behalf of my branch, yes, I happen to be a very ardent football aficionado. I know Adelabo Adegoke. I used to dribble all those. To present this to you in appreciation of the well-researched paper that you delivered today. Thank you very much.
The next award to be presented is to architect Kuti Ezebiro. Kuti Ezebiro is somebody I've known for a while. He was here last year, and that was also an interesting program we had last year. And that was what made me to invite him here again to finish what he started, but I'm sure you have not finished what you started anyway. We're still continuing, but it is indeed a pleasure for me to present this award in recognition of your participation as the panelists at this anniversary of the International Human Rights Day. This is supposed to be the 76th International Human Rights Day. Thank you so much. We appreciate you so much. The next award.
Save that you didn't add that. You said he's an assassin. And that scared me a little.
No.
Intellectual assassin. Yes, the next award goes to someone I said ought to be celebrated on a day like this, a very courageous young advocate who has covered a lot of mileage, Mr. Effiong Inibehe. Thank you. Just that I was a little bit that you didn't take on your friend, the Assistant Commissioner of Police, on the protocol of coming to Lagos to pick Mr. Farotimi. Like has been aptly stated by the keynote speaker. You don't give wrong reasons for doing the right things or doing the right things and giving wrong reasons. There's a lot of breach in protocol, but I'll let it slide for now because we have moved past that stage. Thank you very much, Mr. Inibehe. I will look forward to having you more around a lot more. Thank you for coming.
Here I am again. This award is for Mrs. Ada Mbama. She is my friend. I'm proud to say she's my friend. I thought you appreciate my friend. This award I've known her for years. She's my auntie, if you must know. I've known her for years, and this award is given to her in recognition of her participation as a panelist. This is her second time of coming for my program as well. At the 76th anniversary of the International Human Rights Day. Thank you. I appreciate you very much. You are really my sister, and a sister indeed. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, there is someone else that we need to recognize. The person, unfortunately, is not here, but on a day like this, just like we said, there are people you remember. So I'll be calling on the wife of our late colleague, Mr. Adeshino Ogulana. Not for you to come, we don't have anything yet for you, but for you to be recognized. Please come here and we'll give you a round of applause, please. I feel that we should be on our feet as we recognize that. Yes. If you know, maybe most of you that are still sitting down don't know Mr. Ogulano. But if we tell you that he's worthy of recognition, you should stand up. Take our word for it. So I want you to clap. Thank you, madam, for honoring us. God bless you. So I will be, without much ado, I'll be calling on my predecessor in office. You know, I'm the one in charge now. So I'll be calling on her to give the closing remarks. Thank you, Mrs. Tracy Amadigwe DK.
Wow. It's been an interesting time for us to be here today. It's like as if we won't go, we shouldn't go, but we have to go. There's always an end to a program. On behalf of the Nigerian Bar Association, IKEJA branch, the Human Rights Committee, I want to extend our appreciation to all the panelists, the chairman of the program, who has just left now, and Chief Magistrate Jumoke Adelabu. My story with her, I think when I was the young lawyer, her court was one of the first one I attended. And I was like, I would like to be like this woman when I grew up. And I've not left her since then. I've been following her around. As a matter of fact, she was here last year. And I also want to say, people have been telling me that your lecture book, we want to have it, ma, if you can make it available to us. I had promised them, but I know you will accept, though. I had also given them my word that you will accept before even asking you, because I know you will. Thank you so much. I've committed a blunder. I would have recognized the CJ's rep first, but then, pardon me, ma, we're grateful you came. Want to also appreciate the CP's representative, Mr. Wafo. ACP's representative, Mr. Wafo. ACP Wafo. Okafo. I think I'm missing it up because I'm an Igbo person, so I saw the Afo there and I'm like saying Wafo. Okafo, Mr. It's Okafo. Pardon me. And I also want to say that my appreciation goes to Architect Kuti, who is our member. He's an engineer, but I always like to bring him as the other part of how the people see it out there. He's an activist. And then Inibehe, defamation of, in the name of Linda Igiwe. Please, a round of applause for her. She's the one that drafted all the letters, and I want to appreciate her from the bottom of my heart. She did very well, and all the members, God bless you all. I'm so grateful to have you all. Thank you, and God bless. Well, I think it's time for us to take pictures, please. That's the last on the list.